What's going on? This is hour one of Jon and Jim. We have you covered as we get you ready for game 2 of this series. We have to do it all over again for the next 4 hours. Now, Darnay Tripp is a friend of the show in theory. He has agreed to come on at 5 p.m.
In theory.
Yeah, he's agreed to come on. Really good resource, obviously, for San Diego sports fans over at NBC7. He's been with us a ton over the years. Darnay will be back at 5 p.m. Now, I want to talk Pac-12 with Kyle Bonagura of ESPN, who wrote that lengthy article this weekend. So he's going to join me at 2:30. We'll see if Jim partakes. That's up to Jim. That's up to Jim. It's a choose-your-own adventure for Jim. He might ask one question and then bail. I've seen that before. I've seen that game. You could go no questions. There's no pressure.
Good.
There's no pressure.
No pressure?
You could ask all the questions if you wanted.
We'll see how I feel.
Let's see how you feel.
It's like,
it's like, yeah, like let's see how your arm is feeling after 30 minutes.
Right.
Last night, it's not shocking. I mean, believe it or not, the Padres lost another game to the Dodgers, and this has become a bit of a theme here to start 2025. Obviously, the way 2024 ended against the Dodgers. The way 2025 starts, they lose 2 of 3 to the Dodgers. At Petco, they lose last night. Shohei Ohtani, is obviously this huge storyline. In the end, it really wasn't that much of a factor, him on the mound. The factor was the Padres actually had him on the ropes in the first inning, but settled for a run. And then Dylan Cease, who looked like Cy Young for an inning, ultimately reverted back to Dylan Cease of this year. So more of the same, Jim. I mean, the Dodgers, I think I said it last night, and I kind of feel this way. It's like the Dodgers kind of toying with the Padres right now, like somewhat competitive game. They just win it ho-hum 6-3. And here we are with the Padres looking up at the Dodgers once again in the middle of June.
There's no doubt, like right now, Dodgers are a significantly better team than the Padres, even with all of the injuries they have. Just imagine if they weren't injured.
Right.
Imagine if Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow and Roki Sasaki and who else is in that rotation that's hurt right now?
It's Tony Gonsolin.
Tony Gonsolin is on the IL. I'm sure they have others.
There's others.
Yeah. But imagine if all those guys were healthy and pitching well. It'd be a complete mismatch. So, yeah, last night, once again, disappointing from the fact that you can't really, push Ohtani in the first inning there. Like you made him throw, I think, 25, 27, 26, 28 pitches in the first inning.
This is a big number.
You put a run across the board. That's great. But you know what good teams do? They add on. Mm-hmm. They don't just put one run on the board in the first inning. They have innings where they score 2, 3, 4 runs, and in the first inning, they had opportunity with runners in scoring position and they couldn't get the job done. And okay, put a run up. You'll take it, obviously. And then Dylan Cease comes out on fire last night. I think he struck out the first 5 batters of the game. Mm-hmm. He was throwing 100. He was amped. He looked incredible. And then the 4th inning came and the wheels completely fell off. And that was the game because this team can't put together, 2, 3 innings in a row here where they put up runs on the board at a consistent pace. They are a offensively challenged team that is just, no power, no pop. They got 1.5 guys in the lineup that can do it. And against the Dodgers right now, Dodgers own the Padres.
Yeah, I don't know what's more disappointing. I mean, the stories that have played out here about the bottom of this lineup or Dylan Cease. Like the bottom of the lineup is always going to be the bottom of the lineup. We forecasted this day one of the season, that it wasn't good enough and it wasn't 2024. But for us to be sitting here on June 17th and for Dylan Cease to have a 4.7 ERA and for us not to have any faith in him really, like if we get to the postseason and the Padres are in it, is Dylan Cease the guy you want taking the ball?
No.
Like that's a serious question. I mean, the Padres obviously have a ton of work to get there. They're not in a terrible position. They're better position than they were a year ago. But, Dylan Cease's struggles are like as big of an issue as the Padres are dealing with. It is not an injury. Obviously, the injuries are more impactful. You don't have Michael King. You don't have Yu Darvish. You don't have Jackson Merrill. But the Dylan Cease thing, and this is the story of his career. He's had some dominant years. He's had some average years. We've talked about him being, basically like a quasi Blake Snell at times in his career. Snell's had higher upside. He's won the Cy Young 2 different times, but he's been tough to figure out, Jim. I mean, the numbers are nowhere near what they were a year ago. He was very good against the Dodgers last week at Petco Park. He's given a lead. How about that note from Kevin yesterday or today in his newsletter? And we've talked about this a lot recently. Padres have led in 15 consecutive games. They're 7-8. They've led in 15 consecutive games.
But John,
you should be winning 80% of the time with a lead, and they're under 500 over this 15 games.
I was told that they're playing really good baseball.
Well, that was even what, 4 or 5 games ago before the Arizona series?
Oh, no. Mike Schilt post game last night mentioned how he thinks they're playing good baseball.
Now, I haven't heard that from last night, but I know he said it because it's Mike Schilt. I mean, of course,
yes. Guys, they're not playing good baseball. They've lost 2 straight series. They've lost 5 of 7. And the odds of them winning this series is very low. Split at best. I mean, that would mean you need to take 2 or 3 from the Dodgers. And you haven't done that, well, in a long time. In the regular season.
Last year they did. A couple of times. They won the regular season series. So they did it at least 2 times last year.
Well, right now, the Padres and Dodgers are nowhere close to each other. They're just not. And it's wild because this time last week, the big storyline coming out of that series, even though they lost it, was Dylan Cease is back. Well, he's really not, because he put together that start against the Dodgers last week where he was really good. Now, if you dig deeper, it's like those 5 walks, that's not good. That's a concerning thing. And the fact that he went 7 scoreless while also walking 5 and giving up 3 hits is pretty impressive. But he also struck out 11. And the main thing was that he went 7 complete innings, giving up no runs. And you thought to yourself, all right, perfect time for Dylan Cease to join the 2025 season with the injuries they have to their rotation. And they need this Dylan Cease for at least the next month or so while this team figures out the injuries to Michael King and they get Yu Darvish back. Well, that all went up in smoke last night in the 4th inning, in my opinion. You can't just go out there and have a couple good innings and then you blow up. That's just it's not acceptable when you're considered the quote unquote ace of this team.
The weird part about it to me was there was a moment in the game where the Padres could have rallied and been remotivated. Not that they should need it, playing the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium where their season ended last year. I mean, how could you need any motivation? And Andy Pahz, right, far from a star in the Dodgers lineup, is hit by Dylan Cease on a 98-mile-per-hour fastball, and he immediately took exception to it. To his credit, he actually apologized post-game and said, in the moment he was heated, he realizes there wasn't intent. I thought that moment where Pahz was a tough guy was going to re-energize the Padres. It occurred right there in the 4th inning when the Padres still, I believe, had a 1-run lead, and everything changed from that moment. From that moment on, Dodgers dominated the game. They dominated the inning. They had 5 hits in the inning. I was surprised Cease got out of the inning. Truthfully, he did. He then worked the 5th inning, but 5 runs isn't good enough, obviously, especially with this offense. And then, again, you're not rallying by and large. They've done it a couple of times this year, but they did it way more a year ago where they were overcoming 3-4 run deficits. You just didn't feel like that was happening. Manny Machado hits a home run. It's a solo home run. 6-3. 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, you do nothing. It's just it's just not a lot going on. I know it's just one game, but we've said that a lot. They're 2-5 in their last 7. They're 4 under since 14-3. It's not one game. It's a trend. It's a 2-month trend.
Dating back to game 4 of the NLDS last year, the Padres have now lost 5 of 6 to the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And it's not really been close. A couple close games here and there. But I meant just the feeling of watching these games, the second that the Padres go down in any of these games, it feels over. Especially against the Dodgers, I'm saying. Not just in general, but kind of in general right now. But just against the Dodgers alone, when they go down, it feels like this thing is over. I mean, after that 4th inning, did anybody think the Padres were going to come back and win that game? Anybody?
No. Not a lot of people.
No. And if you did, I mean, good on you. But at the same time, this team right now, and then Jackson Merrill's out, the way that they are playing baseball, the way this lineup is playing, they are not built to have many come from behind victories. They're just not, because they don't hit 2 or 3 run homers. They only hit solo shots. They don't have big innings on a consistent basis. They have put up, a good amount of run totals here the last week, but they don't really have much to show for it, right?
Yeah, 2 wins.
2 wins. And everyone's like, oh, their offense is back. They've got 2 wins in the last week. What's the most important thing? Winning the game Or hey, we scored some runs and it makes our offensive numbers look better. Did you win the game? No, but we scored runs. Okay, well, who cares? You didn't win the game. Like, yes, it's important that the offense gets going for sure, and hopefully these little signs that we have seen here lately, not counting last night, turns into this team offensively being more competent. But at the same time, I'm more concerned about, did you win the game or did you lose the game? And if you win the game and you only scored a run or two, like we've said, you can deal with these things and work through these things, but it's better to work through these things after a win than a loss. I just, right now, this team is not playing good baseball. I don't know in what universe, you could find that they are playing good baseball. They're not playing good baseball right now.
I mean, first of all, defensively, they've been awful. That continues yesterday. How can you be a bad defensive team against the Dodgers and think you're going to win? I mean, they've had some ridiculous defensive performances against the Dodgers already this year. So to your point, I'm with you on at the end of the day, it's zero sum. You need to win. Nobody's like, hey, it's encouraging that their offense looks like their offense is supposed to look. I mean, that's the point. I mean, they had a top 10 offense in the sport a year ago. The one takeaway for me that hopefully has carryover effect and actually matters is Fernando Tatis Jr. Still waiting to break the longest homerless streak of his career, 17 games, but he's had, I think, multi-hit games in 4 straight games, including 2 hits yesterday. So that is encouraging and necessary and a prerequisite for them to get to where they want to go. But you're right. I mean, as they fall back towards 500, they have given up some of what they gained to start the year. They were 14-3 in their 4 games under 500 since. And if they don't win 2 of the next 3 games, how confident are you going to be about their chances of making noise in the NL West if they fall 5 games back? Because if they lose 2 of the next 3 and they're 5 back, and that doesn't make the season, there's still half a season to go, if not more. But like, the Dodgers aren't healthy and haven't played brilliant baseball. And if they take 2 of the next 3 games, are 5 games ahead of the Padres. So do you have a lot of confidence in the Padres overcoming that? Not that they have to, not that that's the expectation. But I didn't think the Dodgers would run away from the Padres after the 14-3 start. Here we are at the halfway point. I hope that doesn't happen.
What the Padres are on the verge of doing is giving away the start of their season. And what they're also on the verge of having to do is kind of replicate what they did in the second half last year. Because, we've said this a lot. The Padres at one point last season were 50-50. Now, if you look back at this time last year, they were under 500.
Yeah.
So they're a better team now this year than they were last year. But the trend lines right now are having this team like being, pulled towards 500. And if they get to a mark where they are the exact same as they were last year, around 50-50, or let's just say this be nice, let's say, 52-48. Okay. 4 games above 500. Still, you're asking, especially with what's happened in the division with Rafi Devers and the Giants, the rest of the National League. There's 9 legitimate teams, including the Padres, that are going to be, competing for 6 spots in the postseason. You think that 87 wins, 88 wins is going to get it done? So what you're now saying is like, hey, go replicate what you guys did in the second half last year. Second half Schilt, go have a great second half, and then, make the postseason. That's kind of what you're asking them for them to do. If they continue to get closer and closer to 500, and if at one point they do, then that's exactly what you're saying they need to do.
Right. And I can promise you that they're not going 43-19 over any 62 game stretch. So banking on that is not going to work. And they were 37-40 at one point in the middle of June before they made their run. But you can't bank on that happening again here in 2025. Hopefully they don't need to make that run. They can stay 7, 8, 9 games over 500.
Yep.
All right. Trade deadline 5 weeks away or so. Kevin Acee yesterday on the expectations for the Padres. You'll hear from Kevin if you missed it in terms of what he said specifically about the deadline. And Colin Cowherd today on the herd lost his mind over Otani pitching 1 inning. And you'll hear it coming up. This is Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, our iHeartRadio Music Festival back. Live performances by Mariah Carey, Maroon 5, Tim McGraw, and more. September 19th and 20th, T-Mobile in Vegas. 2 nights, 1 stage. Buy tickets at AXS.com. Get them now before they sell out. Much was made of Shohei Ohtani's pitching debut in a Dodger uniform, believe it or not. What was the total number of tweets from the MLB account yesterday?
I stopped counting once the over hit.
It was at least 14.
At least 14. I don't know if they tweeted out any more after that, but I think we set the appropriate over-underline. I know that like halfway through the show today, we kind of upped it to 19 and a half, 20 and a half. I think 11 and a half was about right because it might have ended around 14, 15.
Yes, I think you're right. I think it was 14 or 15, and we'll hear from Colin in a second. And if you saw what MLB was putting on like Instagram or even ESPN, like Shohei Ohtani's back, and you can scroll left to right and they show like Ohtani on the mound. And then they show like a pitch of his where there was a swing and a miss from Gavin Sheets. And then they show like the final out of the inning. They didn't show the fact that he actually allowed a couple of hits to Tatis. He allowed a hit to Arise. He allowed the sac fly. He did labor. He threw 28 pitches. I don't know what the expectations were. I mean, he was never going to throw a no-hitter. He's returning to the mound for the first time in 2 years. But when you hear what Colin had to say, you would have thought that this is the greatest accomplishment in sports history. Even though Shohei Ohtani has pitched like 7+ innings before with the Angels and Stars, this was Colin Cowherd earlier today on 760.
We know in baseball that how taxing just pitching is. I mean, you'll often hear this in the postseason. I don't know if we could throw Verlander on short rest. You know what rest Ohtani gets? 4.5 minutes in the dugout until he's hitting. I mean, it's insane that he is an ace in 2025 with how specialized pitching is. This is Derrick Henry of the Ravens being the leading tackler for Baltimore at linebacker, or Patrick Mahomes being the top edge rusher in the conference. I mean, it's just insane. He is the best player in baseball. The gap between Ohtani and the second best baseball player, and that second best player, maybe Mookie Betts, and he gets engulfed by the gravitas and the talent of Ohtani.
So this is what that 1 minute tells me.
You haven't watched.
Colin doesn't watch baseball, which we all know. He gets fed this stuff by his producers. And with the attention span that we all have, that's very limited, right? We focus on what we want to focus on. Colin, I'm sure, was not watching baseball last night. And if he did, that first inning, that's plenty. It's like 20 minutes tops, right? That top of the first inning.
It wasn't 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
15 minutes, yeah. And then you're out. So Colin doesn't know baseball. It's fine. It's okay. I mean, we can't all watch every single sport in real time. It's impossible. But yeah, stop talking about baseball, Colin, because you're acting like this is the first time Ohtani's gone to a mound and pitched in a game. Like, did you not remember that from 2021 to 2023, he pitched, 23 games, started 23 games in 2021. He started 28 games in 2022. And he started 23 games in 2023. Do you not remember that? Where he also won the MVP 2 straight years and finished 4th in Cy Young voting in 2022. That take from Colin screams, I didn't start paying attention to Shohei Ohtani until he went to the Dodgers. And even then, I don't really pay much attention because I don't watch baseball.
Yeah, it's just Colin, he gets enamored with like the bright lights of Los Angeles, doesn't he? Like he's always enamored with like USC, and he's enamored like Shohei Ohtani. By the way, I'm not comparing Shohei Ohtani to Mookie Betts.
Mookie Betts is not even close to the second best player in baseball.
Maybe you missed like what Aaron Judge has done over the course of the last, 5 years.
Aaron Judge
specifically here this year.
Aaron Judge is the best player in baseball. He's better than Shohei Ohtani.
I mean, listen, the difference can be, if Ohtani returns to the form that he showed in Anaheim,
then it's different story.
It's different but the thing is also like, it's an unfair playing field. That's a credit to Ohtani. The fact that he does what he does is special, but how can we compare Aaron Judge to Shohei Ohtani when Aaron Judge doesn't pitch? It's a tough comp, obviously, to make. But if you talk about bat alone, Aaron Judge's bat holds up over the last handful of years against Shohei Ohtani. Just look at the numbers. I mean, Aaron Judge's numbers have been as good as any offensive player in the sport. That includes Ohtani. So, listen, what Ohtani's doing is going to be valuable to the Dodgers. They're dealing with pitching injuries. You steal innings with Ohtani, who has a chance to be among the better pitchers potentially for the Dodgers or in the NL. We'll see if he posts something like a 3 ERA this year or even lower. But I just thought it was a little bit of a strong take based on what happened last night. Okay, he returned to the mound. I mean, that was always the plan, right?
It's a prisoner of the moment. I don't watch baseball, but I think Shohei Ohtani is the greatest thing because he is the shiniest object that baseball has. And so I am going to form a take without really like diving deep into baseball.
I want to get more into the Pahz Cease thing because I think I actually missed it. We talked about this last time on the wrap-up show, and I briefly glossed over it earlier, where I thought Pahz said he realized post-game there wasn't intent. I actually think Pahz said last night, in looking at the quote from Alden Gonzalez, that Pahz thought there was intent.
But then he said later on, it was
he didn't feel his reaction was right. Pahz's reaction was right.
Well, in the moment, he thought there was intent.
Gotcha.
And his emotion created the reaction in the moment. But later on, as he calmed down, he then realized that wasn't intentional. At least that's how I read it.
Okay.
And I know what you're saying. It looked weird on first glance reading it.
It does.
But I think there are multiple tweets. Ardaya.
Yeah, well, this was Alden Gonzalez that I'm reading from. We'll get into
Fabian
it later.
Ardaya yesterday tweeted out multiple tweets from.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Pahz. So.
I'll take a look. All right, we're going to switch gears on the other side. Kyle Bonagura, ESPN. He wrote about the Pac-12's expansion efforts. He'll join us coming up next. Darnay Tripp will join us at 5. We have tickets to give away today. A ton to react to. Padres and Dodgers game 2 coming up tonight. Stay with us. Jon Jim, San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app.
All right, this update is brought to you by RCP Block and Brick. Padres lose again to the Dodgers last night, 6-3. Game 2 of their 4-game series tonight at Dodger Stadium. 7:10 first pitch. Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres, and the Thunder have now taken a 3-2 lead over the Pacers in the NBA Finals. Bad news for the Pacers as Tyrese Hallebertton is suffering from a calf strain. It's still yet to be determined if he will be available for Game 6 back in Indy. It's here, the grand opening of RCP Block and Vista. Come down on June 20th and 21st for 15% off of everything, plus prizes and free food. Don't miss these deals at your new supply spot, the newly remodeled RCP Block and Vista. Visit rcpblock.com to learn more.
All right, we're going to get back to Padres and Dodgers game 2 tonight at Dodger Stadium, but there was reporting this weekend in ESPN from Pete Thamel and Kyle Bonagura. Kyle with us right now on Jon and Jim San Diego Sports 760 about what comes next with the Pac-12 and realignment in college athletics. So Kyle, we appreciate you taking time for us in San Diego. We're the flagship for San Diego State, so it's of particular interest to our listeners. What's the timeline we're working with? We can get into some of these schools and Texas State, but aren't they getting to a point where they're up against it a bit, about a year out from the reformation of the Pac-12? So what timeline is the Pac-12 dealing with when it comes to expansion, media rights, and everything else?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a number of different factors that kind of play into that, right? So the most important, item they have to get figured out is you need an 8th member to play football. Like, those are the rules the NCAA has set to be a functioning conference. So they have to have the 8th member by the 2026 season. So obviously for that to happen, you need a little bit of a runway, right? And so they're kind of up against it where to get everything in order in time, they need to have it wrapped up this summer. If you kind of press in on that a little bit closer, there's a July 1 date where the buyout, for Texas State in particular, jumps from $5 to $10 million. And so for a school like Texas Tech, which is going to be footing their buyout most likely, that's a $5 million increase that they don't want to pay, right? And as if the Pac-12 is trying to be a good partner with Texas State, you would assume that they would try to get this thing done before then. So those are the kind of the 2 dates that are looming in terms of Texas State. As far as the media rights deal is considered, I think that, while they're kind of operating on parallel paths there, that's also something that the Pac-12 would like to have wrapped up sometime this month. Now, whether that's before or after a potential announcement of Texas State, I don't think it's necessarily too important. It just happens to be that they're going to get, should be wrapped up in a similar time frame.
Why does Texas State make the most sense for the Pac-12?
Yeah, I mean, look, beggars can't be choosers is one of them, right? There's only so many options geographically that are going to make sense. And, of course, we can joke about geography not mattering so much in college football anymore. But certainly when you get outside of the power conferences and the TV revenue is not the same. It's harder to justify, playing in a conference outside your geographic footprint at this tier of the sport, right? And so, when you start looking at, okay, who are the schools that are in play? Most of the Mountain West schools have kind of pledged an allegiance to that conference to remain there. They've signed the grant of rights to remain there for the next few years. Those things can be negotiated away as well. So you can't write off the possibility of one of those schools changing their minds and wanting to go to the Pac-12 at some point. I don't expect that to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. The financials just don't make a lot of sense at this point in terms of what buyouts and all that sort of stuff would look like. And so once you get past the Mountain West schools and you say, okay, they're pretty much all off the table, then where do you go, right? You start moving out time zone by time zone, and there's only so many schools that make sense or are interesting. Texas State certainly being in Texas, kind of up and coming as a football program. They've done a lot of nice things. They're developing their program. It kind of is a process of elimination. There has to be reciprocal interest. I mean, I think the Pac-12 would love to get Memphis. There's a few other AAC schools that would be of interest, but again, the Pac-12 isn't going to have the media rights deal to make it so appealing that they're going to jump from the AAC, whereas, that's not the case with Texas State, who's ready to jump from the Sun Belt.
All right, it's interesting you bring that up. Kyle Bonagura is with us from ESPN. He wrote about this over the weekend with Pete Thamel. So you mentioned Memphis, and there was a portion of this article that discusses the possibility of Memphis kind of splitting off football to play against Pac-12 opponents. So join the Pac-12 in football and then, quote unquote, like park its other sports in the Big East. Is that, what's the likelihood or possibility there? I mean, is that a maybe, or is that something that's been discussed and is something that is feasible or possible?
Yeah, so a lot of things can be true, right? It's something that has been discussed. I think at this stage, it's more theoretical. Like, look, what would this look like? Did that make sense for us? But I think it'll be a few years before that could be some sort of realistic possibility. And I think as we've all learned in college sports over the last few years, what the landscape looks like today versus what it's going to look like in 3 years is completely different, right? And so it's something that's intriguing to Memphis because I think that they would like their football program to be placed a little bit more prominently, and I think this new look Pac-12 will be it'll be looked at more favorably than the AAC, not by a lot, but I think it's pretty clear that this group of schools in the Pac-12 is a little bit of a cut ahead. But at the same time, the media revenue, like I was just saying, like isn't such an increase where you can justify moving all your other sports. And so Memphis, you're kind of getting further enough across the country where having the Olympic sports, compete against schools in the Northwest and the West Coast, that's not too appealing, right? You can't make the same justification that a school like Oregon or Washington or the LA schools did to join the Big Ten, right? Or even Stanford and the AAC or the ACC rather. So I think that's why they would be open to the idea of playing football outside of whatever the conference they end up in. With their other sports. And at the same time, I think it's certainly reasonable, even likely that nothing changes and they stick with the AAC too. There's just so many moving pieces and variables here to try to handicap that far out into the future with much clarity is really tough to do.
Kyle, is there any update with what's playing out like behind closed doors with the Pac-12 and the Mountain West, and how much of this is tied to like those mediation efforts? You got mediation, you have a media deal, you have expansion. How are these all tied together, or are they individual pieces that aren't necessarily all tied and connected?
Yeah, so I think they're loosely connected, right? Because if, the Mountain West, the way they had this like scheduling agreement drawn up with the Pac-12, they were trying to protect themselves against, getting poached. They included poaching penalties. The contract, and I've read it, calls for several $1 million per school if the Pac-12 were to have grabbed these Mountain West schools. And it all adds up to about $55 million on paper. The Pac-12 is fighting that. They're saying this is an illegal clause. This shouldn't have been allowed in the contract. Mountain West is like, well, you signed it. Here it is. So they're in mediation now to determine, what happens to that $55 million. And like, I'm not going to pretend to have a great sense of where that's going to end up, but like, look at the two ends of the spectrum, right? If the Pac-12 doesn't have to pay anything, that's $55 million of savings that they can put towards whatever they want, whether that's helping with a buyout for another school, whether it's, enticing, paying out more to their current schools. Like there's a whole number of ways they could use that money. And the same goes for the Mountain West, right? If they have this $55 million from the Pac-12, that makes them a little bit more. They have the freedom to go chase different schools and improve their conference in certain ways, right? I think what's probably going to happen is it ends up in the middle. I think that's why they're in mediation. They don't want to. Neither side wants to really gamble that you'll get stuck too far to one side of the equation. So that's kind of where the mediation is coming from. There's also individual buyouts with the schools that are involved in that as well. And so, look, if all of a sudden the Pac-12 has, let's just use a number just to make the math easy, $50 million more than they have now as a result of how mediation plays out, maybe if you can use that to incentivize Memphis to come for football, right? So maybe it helps you, change the look and the makeup of the conference down the road. But that stuff still has some time to play out. I don't think anyone has a great sense of when mediation will arrive at any sort of finality.
Kyle Bonagura, ESPN with us. Just a couple of more, Kyle. What about the media figure in terms of dollars for these schools? Will the Pac-12 schools be receiving more money than the AAC schools, for example, in your estimation?
So I think what's going to happen is like eventually in the next AAC contract, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but like I think eventually the football deal for the Pac-12 will be more than the ACC, but in the short term, it's also not going to be as high as what some of these consultants had kind of projected. There was like numbers that came out in these, like San Diego State was certainly pitched on the idea that the TV revenue could be as high as $15 million a year. They're not going to touch that. Like I don't think there's any expectation now in a kind of college sports landscape that it's going to be above 10 even at this point. I think what's kind of still important to understand is like the TV payout will be higher than it would have been in the Mountain West. There's other revenue generators that the Mountain West, the schools that have moved over will benefit from. But still, this is still not a power conference, right? Like it's going to be a good, fun, regional football conference, but it's still, going to be tens of millions of dollars below the other tier of the sport. And I think where it nets out will be comparable to the ACC, whether it's $1 million here, $1 million there. I'm not sure who will end up in head. And ultimately, I'm not sure that, when we're talking about $1 million, $2 million there, it really will make much of a difference either.
And then my last one would just be, is there any like wild card in this? Like the Texas State has been discussed for months. Memphis and some other AAC schools have been discussed maybe for close to a year at this point. There's St. Mary's basketball that's out there on the periphery. Is there any like completely outside the box thinking under the radar that still could play out in the coming weeks? Or is that more and more less likely as we get closer to some of these deadlines?
Yeah, I think I think anything that is likely at this point has probably been, bandied about publicly at this point. Mm-hmm. If there's another school that's being discussed, I would have reported it by now, right? So if anything else is happening, I'm unaware of it. But there's a lot of this, and Pete and I wrote about this in the story. Like a lot of this is cloak and dagger, right? And so there is stuff that's going on behind the scenes that people don't find out about. And then it pops. I mean, I go back to when UCLA and USC announced on the same day, like that came out of nowhere, right? And so that stuff can happen, and until it does, it's hard to predict. But again, there's just so few possibilities at this stage of realignment. Like the trickle down effect has gotten to this point in college sports where there's just no one left. I mean, you could talk about a school like Sacramento State moving up from FCS, something like that. You could see down the line, but I think for the time being, most of the possibilities that have a real likelihood of coming this summer are public, or people have at least discussed it, I guess.
Kyle, appreciate you taking time for us in San Diego. Really good reporting. We will be watching and reading and awaiting the next step here for the Pac-12. And thanks for hopping on here today in Southern California.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, great stuff from Kyle Bonagura and Jim. On the other side, we're going to hear from Kevin Acee on the upcoming trade deadline. How active will the Padres be? Are we expecting a big splash or not? That's next from Kevin on Jon and Jim. San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. By the way, San Diego State has named a new baseball head coach. He'll join us tomorrow. That is Kevin Vance. He was the pitching coach at the University of Arizona, and they were in the College World Series this year. He played at Torrey Pines. So Kevin Vance, 34 years of age, I believe, heading back to San Diego as the new head coach of the Aztecs baseball program. He will join us tomorrow at 2:30. All right, so Kevin Acee, remember when he joined us yesterday?
I thought you were going to say Kevin Acee. You remember him?
You know him.
Yeah, I know him.
He'll join us again tomorrow. You asked the question about the deadline. You're like, hey, look at what's played out in San Francisco. What can the Padres be looking at or thinking about when it comes to left field and the trade deadline? This is the answer that Kevin provided.
I don't know where this left fielder comes from. I don't. But I do trust in AJ Preller because he has come through so many times. I think it's going to have to be one of their or two of their young relievers, maybe even a major league reliever. And then they've got some depth in the minor leagues there. That's dealing from a strength. It's about their only strength. So is there a team out there that has a right-handed bat that, is looking to contend and wants a solid reliever? And it's really hard because people outside the organization are like, what do they have? And the Padres are kind of like, well, yeah. I mean, they're not exactly putting a big fight on that. I'm saying, oh no, we got lots to deal with, but they do seem to be confident they can get it done. And I mean, honestly, there's so many contenders right now and so few good players out there. I hope people's expectations aren't that high.
That's not what you want to hear if you're a Padres fan. I hope your expectations aren't that high. And Kevin's around this team every single day. He talks to people inside the organization every single day. Now, again, has Kevin been led down paths that have been misleading? Absolutely. That's what this organization and every organization does. They're not going to just be completely transparent with everything that they're thinking about doing. But, I tend to believe what Kevin is saying here as far as, hey, maybe we shouldn't be as optimistic that they're going to make some big time splashy move that the Padres have made the last couple years.
I guess my question would be, how good is this system when you start throwing around these players to other teams in deals? Like what can this system return when it comes to talent, right? If you're going to say Leo DeVries is off limits, if you're going to say Ethan Salas presumably is, not going to be traded. I mean, are you trying to move some of your young pitching talent? Does that make sense with Dylan Cease and Michael King about to walk at the end of the year? I mean, are you trying to move your top pitching talent in the organization to go address left field? That to me would have some reservations. So all of a sudden you look up, I mean, what are you going to get for Tirso Ornelas? What are you going to get for Camposano? What are you going to get for, some of these names that we've seen bounce around the major leagues over the last year or two, where the reason the Giants were able to do what they did, and it was a stunner, is they had money to work with. I mean, a crazy amount of money to work with. This never was possible in San Diego. So San Diego's not going to have the money to work with. Maybe they have some money. They're going to need the players. They're going to need the players in their system to bring them that healthy return. Now, maybe they're never going to they're not trying to go make a Juan Soto trade. So I think you can go out and get a player like Taylor Ward, the left fielder for the Anaheim Angels. But is that enough to kind of put you over the top is the point?
It will help out on the edges. It will help out with filling a need. But it unless Fernando Tatis Jr., who has gotten hot over the last, 4 or 5 games, which is nice, but we're still waiting for that, first home run in over 17 games.
Yep.
If Luis Ariz isn't going to start hitting like a batting champion, a 3-time batting champion, if Xander Bogaerts is still going to be playing like Tyler Wade, if Tyler Wade is still going to be playing, if guys like Bryce Johnson and Trenton Brooks and throw out any other, Martin Maldonado and Elias Diaz, if those guys are going to continue to just be complete automatic outs, bringing in Taylor Ward isn't going to just fix everything. It could help. It definitely could help with things. But the only way it truly, really helps is if the other guys that I just named start performing. Because if they don't, doesn't matter who they bring in. Now, again, they're not bringing in like Aaron Judge. If they brought in Aaron Judge, guess what? That really, really helps you. That's a game changer move. But you know what? That move, first off, Aaron Judge, I went to just the top of the tree. That's not happening. They're not bringing in a Rafi Devers. They're not bringing in you name it. They're bringing a guy in that, potentially in Taylor Ward, he's hitting 211 with a 715 OPS or something like that?
741.
Okay, so
yeah, I mean,
pretty good OPS.
I guess the question is could this offense be unlocked with one additional competent hitter? Is that possible? And maybe it is. I know that's the thing. I mean, the truth is, some of these under the radar players actually have been competent this year. Jake Cronenworth, if you looked like his OPS numbers or OPS plus, he's been solid.
Decent, yeah.
Obviously, Gavin Sheets has been well more than people expected.
Sure.
Manny Machado is in the midst of one of his better career years. Even Tatis being down, it's not like the numbers would suggest he's not an above average offensive player. He clearly has been. Jackson Merrill has still been an above average offensive player. He hasn't been the player he was in 2024. So the question is, do you need Rafi Devers if you're in San Diego? Or do you need Taylor Ward and a bench piece?
You like Rafi Devers.
Of course you like him. But the thing is, San Francisco's lineup didn't have on paper what San Diego's lineup already had in it. I think we would all agree on that. Now, I think San Francisco gets the shot in the arm where there's no player the Padres can acquire anything like Rafi Devers.
No.
But then again, they already have Machado and Sheets and Merrill and Arise and Tatis, where I think that was ahead of where the Giants were. So I guess it's just I think it supports what Kevin is saying, I guess, which is, of course, they're not going to add some ridiculously flashy piece. How would they even go about doing it? Plus, their lineup should be good enough that you don't have to go out and bring in some, 900 OPS player to bail out what's going on here. They shouldn't have to do that. If I was AJ Preller, that's what I'd be saying to ownership. We shouldn't have to go bring in a big ticket item. We should have to go bring in a bat that maybe helps us go, but it's going to be on these guys to go. And Taylor Ward's just a piece of that puzzle, or whoever it is.
And what last year essentially did, it kind of lulled everybody into this false sense of, well, you know what? Anybody that AJ Preller goes out and gets on the margins or from the scrap heap is just going to be what was 2024's team, right?
Yes.
Hey, go sign this guy for $1 million. He's going to be Jurickson Profar. Go bring this guy, off his couch. He's going to be like Donovan Solano. Go bring this catcher out of the abyss. He's going to be like Kyle Higashioka. Like, go bring X player in who nobody knows about. He's going to turn into something good, like David Peralta. The truth is, what happened last year, it's a rarity to see all the moves that AJ made last year all hit. And we said at the time that it was a perfect season from a general manager standpoint, about as good as you can get with all the moves he made on the margins without going out and signing a $300 million player. It's easy to go sign a $300 million player. It's hard to go find a guy and sign him to $1 million and have that guy turn into an all-star.
Yeah.
And that's what AJ Preller did last year. And so it kind of lulled everybody into this sense of AJ could do that again, when, you have to realize that is so difficult to think that lightning in a bottle of signing guys off the scrap heap, less than $1 million or $4 million, are going to become all-stars. Jason Hayward and Connor Joe and Yuli Gurriel and Martin Maldonado and Elias Diaz and, Jose Iglesias to an extent. Sorry. Doesn't always work like that.
No, and Gavin Sheets did, and that's a huge hit. It's a huge hit. You're right. I mean, you're not going to get all Gavin Sheets. I mean, thankfully they ended up adding Gavin Sheets because he's been a big part of this for the Padres. So we're talking about this lineup. ESPN just put out today the 30 lineups in baseball ranked. Where are the Padres in that list? On paper, I think they're good. As it's played out, it hasn't been so good. Where do the Padres rank? Where do the Dodgers stack up heading into game 2? We'll share that with you on the other side. Darnay Tripp, NBC7, joins us at 5. We're getting you ready for Padres and Dodgers game 2 tonight at Dodger Stadium. This is Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app.
All right, this update is brought to you by Rapid Radios. Padres Dodgers game 2 up in LA tonight. 7:10 first pitch. Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres. The Thunder have taken a 3-2 lead in the NBA Finals. Bad news for the Pacers. Tyrese Hallebertton, he has suffered a calf strain. It's yet to be determined if he's going to play in Game 6. And tonight we have a Game 6 between the Oilers and the Panthers in Florida. Panthers lead that series 3-2. They're looking to win the cup for the second consecutive year in a row. Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage. No subscription ever. Business owners can keep in touch with up to 200 staff members at one time. Go to rapidradios.com now for up to 60% off and free shipping.
Previously on Jon and Jim.
I've been watching this one channel where this guy opens boxes of cards that people buy on the app, and everyone can watch what players are coming out of these boxes or out of these packs. And I sent it to Jim after the wrap-up show. I'm like, you need to watch this because it's truly incredible. People buy boxes worth thousands of dollars, and you watch what comes out of these boxes. It's
What were the briefcases called?
flawless. People are buying $5,400 cases of cards that have, by the way, 10 cards in them? Like
Maybe
5
10.
to 10 cards.
Maybe 10.
And it was $5,000 a case.
Now, time for Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 2 of Jon and Jim. We are here until 6 p.m. Get you ready for Padres and Dodgers. Darnay Tripp, friend of the show, in theory, will join us he will join us at 5 p.m. He's a friend of the show in theory.
Would you say that we basically
Bother the hell out of him?
begged him to come on today?
No, not at all. This is completely par for the course. I mean, look at the correspondence. All I said was Darnay.
Did we trick him to coming on today? I think we might have. We
No.
tricked him, right?
No, I said 10:57 a.m. We're in that meeting. And I said Darnay with 8 Ys. Anytime I say Darnay with 8 Ys in the group chat, it means I want him on the show.
Might not want
And
to
then-
flash the group chat to the camera, but continue.
Why not?
Never mind.
Tell me, why wouldn't I?
Just continue.
It doesn't have like his phone number on here. There's nothing. The only thing that would be a problem in here is probably something you wrote. So I don't
Probably
care.
exactly.
And you haven't written anything. So
I know, 'cause I muted the
right.
conversation.
That's great.
I'm kidding.
Anyway, Darnay's going to join. No, we didn't like bait him into coming on. This is how we get him on every single time. I asked him to come on. He says he won't do it. And then he eventually just comes on.
Right, he caves.
He caves. So he's going to join us coming up at 5 p.m. There's 2 interesting lists. You just told me one at the break that I'd seen earlier today, which is like from The Athletic, I think, right? The Athletic posted about that. There's 5 teams essentially that could win the World Series.
Read yours first, and then
Okay.
I'll read mine.
Okay, that's good. So ESPN.com ranked the top teams in terms of lineups. They actually ranked all 30 teams, right?
Wow, look at that lineup.
At the halfway point, exactly. So in ranking the 30 teams at the halfway point, who's the top team in baseball in terms of a lineup?
The Dodgers.
The Dodgers are the top lineup in the sport. Where do the Padres rank? Now, you already heard the answer. But for our listeners, like, what would you be thinking about? Like, again, I think on paper, it's a good lineup. I think in actuality, it hasn't been a good lineup. So that's why I just picked in the middle, because in theory, they're good. In actuality, they're not that good. So they're kind of in the middle, right? Well, that's where ESPN has them. 16th
Makes sense.
in the sport, which I think is completely fair. I mean, I think sometimes we pretend like they have the worst offense in the sport. They don't. They maybe did for 3 weeks. But if you look at it in totality, they're like a middling offense and without power. That's their big issue. They lack power. So 16th. Last year, I think they were more top 10-ish, Jim, but they've taken that step back to 16. If this continues, maybe they drop a little lower. If they get hot like they were the first couple of weeks, maybe they are, top 12-ish offense. But I think 16 is pretty fair.
Who was it we had on? Was it Jesse Rogers? I thought their lineup was overrated.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. It's really hard to argue. If you just take away the names, take away Fernando Tatis Jr. and 3-time batting champ Luis Arraez and, Jackson Merrill and, World Series champion Xander Bogaerts, like Manny Machado. Take away all the names in the lineup. Okay. And if you just look at the lineup with, those black silhouettes next to the thing, right? Yeah, you would say this lineup is mid. It's not great. You're like, their number 5 hitter is hitting 230 with a 600 OPS.
Right.
Like what? like the bottom half of the lineup, 180, 210, 200 at best. Like it's not a great lineup. The names make it look better than it actually has been this year.
Yeah. I think that's 100% right. I completely agree with that. That's why it's like, I think if it was just like based on names, you would have said coming into the year, like, okay, maybe it's got a chance to be a really good lineup. And then if you watch it play out, you might be thinking to yourself, this is a really bad lineup. And I think both things are kind of true. There have been times this year to start, they were good. There have been times this year, the last month, they've been really bad. So can you win 90 games with the 16th best lineup in the sport? Yes, with Michael King and Dylan Cease looking like Michael King
but Michael King is not even close to pitching.
And with your bullpen being your bullpen and holding leads, they've led in 15 straight games. We said this earlier. Mm-hmm. Teams that lead in 15 straight games should win 75% of the time. They're 7-8. So like they have the makings of being good. They still need to be good. That includes their lineup. There are some pieces in there that are good. They have the makings of it. Now it's about putting this whole thing together sooner rather than later, is what I've
always said I like their top 4 as long as they're healthy.
Yep.
Jackson Merrill, I mean, it's a freak injury that happened, but hopefully luck turns back on his side and it doesn't feel like a snake bitten type of year for Jackson Merrill.
Right.
But if he's healthy, Toddy, Arise, Manny, and Merrill, top 4, that's good. The problem is when Luis Arise is hitting 270 instead of 315 and Fernando Tatis Jr. forgot how to hit home runs and Jackson Merrill can't stay on the field. And when he's on the field, he's not hitting for power anymore like he was at the start of the year. Then you got problems. Then you got problems because you're asking those guys to carry the way. They are the catalysts for this team. Those 4 guys need to be really good because the bottom half of your lineup with Xander, and I'm not going to throw Jake in there because Jake's been fine. He's been more than serviceable. He's done his part. He's not a complete, automatic out. But when you have Xander and you have whoever's in left field and you have your catcher, okay, all just being complete negatives, that's tough. And by the way, Jake's not having this like a fantastic year. He's kind of he's having an average year. And you can't, if the 4 guys on top of the lineup don't perform, you can't win many baseball games because the bottom half is not going to do the job more often than not.
Yeah, it's interesting because I saw this tweet earlier today and I thought about it in my head and now I'm learning about these lineup rankings. And there's actually, what's crazy is the evidence supports the Padres lineup being better than what we've seen over the last month, right? Because you look at things like weighted runs created and Tatis is a darn good hitter, even this year. Manny's been a very good hitter. Merrill's been good. Mm-hmm. Sheets has been good. Cronenworth has been solid, well above league average. Arise, above league average. Even Xander, not absurdly below league average at 94. I mean, it's 6% below league average, but it's not horrific. So I just mentioned there 7 names. So again, it just brings me around in circles and circles and circles. At times you think it has a chance to be something. We've seen it. And then other times it doesn't look like it. And I don't really know what to make of it, is what I'm saying. What's your list? What's the 5-team list that have a chance to win the World Series?
All right, so from The Athletic put together a list of teams that have won the World Series since 1998, and they have created a formula to determine what teams right now in baseball have the best chance to win a World Series that would meet all the criteria of every World Series winner since 98. Mm-hmm. Here are the teams.
Okay.
The New York Yankees.
Makes sense.
The Detroit Tigers.
Makes sense. They're really good.
The Chicago Cubs.
Okay.
The Houston Astros. The Astros are 41-31. And your San Diego Padres at 39-32.
Did you say LA?
I did not say LA.
Oh, you didn't say LA. So the list, according to data from 98 of potential World Series winners, does not include the Dodgers per The Athletic.
Here's what they factor in. Factor number 1, they rank among the top 13 in 2 of these 3 categories: win percentage, run differential, and then wins above replacement. Factor number 2, this team must rank among the top 17 in on-base percentage or top 11 in slugging. Factor 3, this team must rank among the top 11 in opponent batting average or top 16 in whip. Factor 4, this team must rank among the top 13 in quality starts or fewest meltdowns. Factor 5, check at least 4 of these 5. I mean, this is a crazy thing that they're doing. Top 11 in lowest BABIP allowed, top 20 in batting clutch, top 20 in fewest home runs allowed, top 25 in lowest batting strikeout rate, top 25 in speed score. The more you read it, the more you're like, wait a second here.
I don't really buy it.
These are a lot of just like cherry picked things
top
to
11,
use to
top
determine
20.
like who the World Series winner is, right? But still, I mean, it's interesting to look at.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Listen, I think the Padres should be on a list of potential World Series teams. You want to know why? Because I think the Padres should be a playoff team. So I think teams that make the playoffs have that shot. And then there's that like randomness that goes into it. I'm not going to associate with some list that wouldn't have the Dodgers, the defending World Series champions that are only going to get healthier, not on that list. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. And that's why it's probably just cherry picking random data. And to pretend like that's all going to come to fruition, we'll see. Maybe.
Well, the list doesn't factor in injuries. They don't factor in when, guys are out or not out or whatnot. They're probably just looking at, obviously they're looking at the numbers here, but are they factoring in the fact that we don't even know when Michael King will pitch again? Darvish, we don't know about him. We don't know about trades.
Are they factoring in second half Schilt?
Yeah, they're factoring in second half Schilt.
I don't think they're factoring any of that in.
But still, I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see that
it's nice to be on a list that's a good list.
Yeah, there's a criteria that's thrown out there that says the Padres are one of the teams that meet every single criteria point that a World Series winner from 1998 has met.
Cross your fingers and let's see if the Padres can win tonight. When Randy Vasquez is on the mound.
Just win the game tonight on a Tuesday in June.
Yeah, tonight is more important than that list. So we'll see if the Padres can turn things around tonight. Again, they've lost 4 of 5 and 5 of 7. They're 1-3 this year against LA. We need to get to the NBA Finals from last night. You're going to hear an awful take, which you're going to get sometimes here, sometimes on television. You're going to hear a ridiculous take.
I've never done this
on Tyrese Hallebertton.
I've never had a take like this before. I've had dumb takes.
Okay, that's for our listeners to decide. Is this worse than any take that Jim has ever had? You're going to hear it on the other side. Plus, Darn A Triple Jonas coming up at 5 p.m. We'll get to the wrap in the 4 o'clock hour. We have a giveaway for you today as well. All ahead. We're here until 6. Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, starting June 23rd, that'll be Monday. San Diego Sports 760 has 9 chances to win $1,000 every weekday. It's the bonus bucks giveaway that's every hour 9 through 5, starting Monday, June 23rd. Listen for the keyword, enter it at sportssd.com. That's Monday, June 23rd at 9 a.m. All right, Jim lost his mind earlier today because I was there. He couldn't believe this take.
Well, it's not even.
Couldn't believe it.
Look, yes. Once you hear this from Emmanuel Acho, you'll be like, what? I'm more upset and just annoyed the fact that like this guy gets this platform and gets all this money and he gets to spew out like crap like this all the time. Just for clicks and just for acknowledgement, like we're giving him right now, which we're the problem actually.
That's what I was getting. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know. I understand the point, but here's the thing: if people don't have to watch. People don't have to. I mean, who's watching Emmanuel Acho? What show is it even from?
I could not tell you.
The Acho Show.
I forget what it's called. Like
FS1 in the morning.
I really don't know. But the only reason why I saw it is because it popped up on my feed. Right. I didn't go search for this. I didn't be like, what did Emmanuel Acho say today? You know, like it just showed up on my timeline, and I had to like do a double take. I'm like, wait, someone actually said this about Tyrese Hallebertton, who, if you don't know, last night he was playing through a strained calf. Mm-hmm. Don't know when he suffered it. Maybe game 2.
Or when he went down, he fell over. Remember, he lost his footing and like fell on his face on a drive to the basket.
Well, anyway,
left the game.
He's playing with a strained calf in the NBA Finals, a place that he might not ever return to in his career.
By the way, the reason they're in the NBA Finals is Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah. And
the reason they won game 1 is Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, and the reason why they're still, they're 2 wins away from the NBA Finals is mainly because Tyrese Halliburton. He's a big part of that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, John, but if I was a professional athlete in any sport and I reached either the World Series, the Stanley Cup Final, the Super Bowl, or the NBA Finals, I mean, I could have a strained calf and I would still try and play through it.
Yeah, you kind of respect that.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
You try to be out there, even if you're dealing with an injury, because this is what you play for.
Right. And he's also not the coach. So he's not telling, Rick Carlisle, hey, put me in the game. Rick Carlisle and him probably had a conversation, or if it happened in mid-game, they probably talked about it briefly. And he gave his all, man. And that's all you could ask for. And I feel like anybody bashing Tyrese Halliburton for going out there and trying to gut it out in the NBA Finals in game 5, by the way, when the series is tied at 2 games apiece.
Like, you'd be more content if you just sat on the bench. Like, these seasons on it. Let's hear from Emmanuel Acho react.
I'm not going to applaud you for playing hurt. Most selfish thing I've seen Tyrese Halliburton do is try to play hurt, because he tried to be a hero. Oftentimes in basketball and sports and even in this culture, we have this machismo alpha male idea of, I'm going to put the whole team on my back. No, what you did last night was put the whole L on your back, Tyrese Halliburton, because your backup, McConnell, was the only player I would suggest that had a legitimate plus minus. Shout out to Benedict as well. In that game, McConnell had the second most points scored in that game. But you, Tyrese Halliburton, thought that you were going to be a god. You were going to be a hero. You said if you could walk, that you were going to walk on that court. You should have walked your butt to the back end of the bench, is what you should have done. No made field goals. No steals, no blocks. You was out there just running and jumping as if this were track and field, as if the job on the court was not to put the ball into the basket. Halliburton, I would suggest, didn't necessarily play hurt. He just played for the opponent. I'm not going to applaud you for playing hurt. You said you want to do anything you could to help your team win. What you could have done in that moment was to sit down, because you weren't helping anybody do anything except the Oklahoma City Thunder win that game. Everybody at this junction in time is hurt. And if you step on the court, ask the man to my right who played a long time professionally and played at a very high level, ask the man on the far end to my left who played a long time professionally and played on a high level, and ask the man immediately to my left who has watched the game at a high level for over 3 decades now. If you step on the court, we judge you accordingly. There is no "I was hurt" excuse to cower and hide behind.
All right, turn this off. Shut this guy up.
You weren't hurt.
I can't listen to him talk.
I have a gigantic
He's the
issue with
ultimate, like, turn it off. He's the ultimate. He loves to hear himself speak. He always thinks he's right.
I mean, I watched the entire game. The reason they lost, and Tyrese Halliburton did not have a good game, let's be clear.
No.
Andrew Nembhard was flat out awful. And the truth is, Halliburton wouldn't be replaced by McConnell. Nembhard would be. Halliburton's going to be on the floor regardless. It's Nembhard's job that should have been lost down the stretch. Not Hallebertton's. Ryan Nembhard was flat out awful and has had a bad series. Not Ryan, excuse me, Andrew Nembhard. Ryan's at Gonzaga. Andrew Nembhard was awful. That is a big reason why they lost. Plus, you're playing in Oklahoma City in Game 5. That's going to be a tough game to win. They pulled to within 2 midway through the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. They were right there. They couldn't close the door. Nembhard had a number of turnovers and missed shots the final 6 or 7 minutes of that game. You can't put that thing on Hallebertton. Hallebertton's why you're there. Hallebertton's why you won Game 1. You need Hallebertton in Game 6. I don't even know what the status is going to be because the MRI and the calf, but they're not winning the NBA Finals without Tyrese Hallebertton. Simple as that.
And speaking of Nembhard last night, it was a 5-point game with 8:40 left. They were down. Pacers were down 95-90.
Right. They pulled within 2.
They pulled within 2.
Yeah.
But at that moment, Nembhard touched the ball 8 times. Of those 8 times that he touched the ball in the fourth quarter from the 8-minute mark on,
nothing good happened.
It was either a turnover or a missed shot.
Yeah, I watched it. That is accurate.
So, look, Emmanuel Acho, that show, I mean, it's completely just tanked in ratings. So what he needs to do is he needs to come up with the hottest of the hot takes all the time because that's his bit, right?
Right. But that's not even that.
And make it try to go viral.
I know it's hot.
Well, he's done it. I forget what other, again.
Right.
It's more or less the fact that guys like him and Stephen A. Smith are promoted and paid just so much money to put out takes like this, where there are probably a lot of people that actually think that he's 100% right and take his side, and then use that to create a narrative on Tyrese Hallebertton last night that he hurt his team and he's selfish because he played injured.
Nobody's falling for that. Here's the thing also, you can't, and I don't like Stephen A either, but I'm not comparing Stephen A. Smith to him. Like Stephen A. Smith is in a different stratosphere to Emmanuel Acho. No one cares what Emmanuel Acho says. He has no relevancy. He's not setting the narrative.
True.
He's just not. Stephen A. is able to do that, and I disagree with it to a large extent. To your point, I really do. But I'm not going to put Emmanuel Acho in that same category. Even
it's just like it's sad because this is now where media has gone, and guys like him, Emmanuel Acho, have made sports media just about how many hot takes can you throw out there.
I do agree with that. I think that's true. I do.
What do you got, Brent?
I was going to say, the funny thing is, if he would have sat on the bench and didn't play, they would have been coming out today and complained about how
could you not play in Game 5?
He's selfish, and this is the NBA Finals. Right. You got to go out there and play, and you're being, but instead he did what they want him to, and now they're throwing a fit about that too.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's get back to the Padres and the Dodgers on the other side. It is Game 2 tonight. What to expect from Dodger Stadium? Padres looking to even up the series. We'll hear from Mike Schilt later in the show, hopefully as well, his pregame comments. And Darnay Tripp will join us coming up at 5 p.m. from NBC7. This is Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app.
All right, this update is brought to you by Lowe's. Padres Dodgers, game 2 of their 4-game series tonight up at Dodger Stadium. 7:10 first pitch. Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres. Game 6 of the Stanley Cup final is tonight in Florida. Panthers have a 3-2 lead over the Oilers. Panthers looking to win back-to-back cups tonight. And the NBA Finals, the Thunder now have a 3-2 series lead after their win over the Pacers last night. Tyrese Hallebertton, we just talked about it, has a calf strain. His availability for Game 6 right now is up in the air. Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you want what lowest price has with their lowest price guarantee. If you find a qualifying lower price on the same item, they'll match it. Price match applies to the same items. Current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how they'll match at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
All right, donate trip at 5. If you miss Kyle Bonagura from ESPN on Pac-12 realignment, what it means for the Aztecs, you'll hear that again at 4:30. I have a general question for you, Jim, and our listeners. 877-767-4760. 70470. Start it with the word team if you want to text. Do you like fiery Mike Schilt?
Oh, do I like?
I'm referencing the Pahz hit by pitch, because there's a lot there we haven't really gotten into, which we can, like what Machado said post game about Pahz.
I love hold me back guy.
That Schilty is the definition of hold me back guy. This is not the first example of that from Schilt last night when he said, and I'm not going to use the word obviously because I'm not allowed to. I don't think. Can I use the?
No, you can't use the F word. Joe.
Okay. But I can say like.
You can kind of say F word.
Right. So Mike Schilt to Andy Pahz after he got hit by the pitch from Dylan Cease in the 4th inning. Who the F do you think you are with like the hand movements from the dugout? Do you like that from Schilty?
Look, whether I like it or think it's just a complete hold me back guy, move, doesn't matter. It produced an amazing meme.
I agree with that.
That's all I care about.
No, I'm with you. That's why honestly, it's why I asked, like, do you want your manager to be like, is this what you want out of a manager? I would say, here's the thing. It's like what we always say about Schilt. When it's good, it's good. When they're winning, that's what I want to hear post game from him too. Everything he's saying.
Yeah.
When they're winning, I'm all for the hold me back Schilt. When they're losing, it doesn't come across the same way to me, truthfully.
Right.
Now, in real time, I don't know what the score was when that happened. Maybe it was tied or they were up a run or
they were
down
a run.
They were losing. It was in the 4th inning, though.
So
were they losing?
It was the bottom of the 4th inning, maybe right as Cease was imploding in on himself.
It was with 5 runs to score in the inning, but it was before that happened. But so you're okay with it because you like the memes?
100%, dude. Come on. The memes, dude. Mike Schilt has produced some amazing memes already this year.
He has.
New York. I mean, that was that was an incredible.
Was that the glasses toss?
Oh yeah. That was great. The ultimate hold me back guy move. Like, I'm Mr. Tough Guy. You better watch out.
I was like, you're gonna have to toss me. Remember?
Yeah, I know.
You're gonna have to toss me. Yeah. I'm backing up my guy. Just now, do we have to go through this?
Now look, that moment created a amazing comeback, come from behind victory.
Yes, that's right.
That was awesome.
Yep, that's right.
Last night wasn't to that extent.
Nope.
It was just a brief moment, and then it quickly died down, which, as it should, there was nothing there at all. And I look, everybody today is like, oh, F Pahz. And yeah, F Pahz because he's a Dodger. But taking the step back from your hatred of the Dodgers, I kind of get it, dude. I kind of get it. You just got hit. And
just mad at getting hit.
And Cease just gave up 4 runs, and he completely just fell off, in that inning. And
no, that's not when it happened.
Yeah, it did.
No, he had not given up 4 runs. No,
did not.
There's no way that's not the way I remember it. I don't know. It was no. I don't think so. He might have given up the lead. I think it was like 2-1 or 2-2 or something.
Anyway,
I don't know.
Anyway, adrenaline took over. You don't like getting hit. You get pissed off.
Right.
And he's a young player, so he's still like kind of learning about these things. But I'll put my hatred of the Dodgers hat back on. Yeah, F that guy.
Right? Yeah, the funny thing is, like, in looking at his quotes from postgame, he admitted to stealing signs.
It was 3-2 when he got hit.
It was 3-2.
So he just gave up the lead.
Right. Okay. So it was 3-2. But again, it's not a good spot to hit someone, obviously, but he hit him. So what he said postgame, Pa has this throw on Gonzalez. thought Cease threw at him intentionally, perhaps he thinks, because they thought he was relaying signs from second base earlier in the game. He thought he was hit because he thought the Padres realized he was stealing signs. Well, that's an interesting admission. That you think you were hit because you were stealing signs. He went on to say postgame, I don't feel like my reaction was right. That was in Spanish. But adrenaline took over for me in that moment. Then there was more postgame from Machado. Okay?
This is so spicy. I love this.
Yeah, I wish we had the audio of this, and I looked for it, but I couldn't find it.
I don't think there was audio. I think it was just print.
There was a lot of audio from inside the Dodgers clubhouse last night because I found it, but I couldn't find it from inside the Padres clubhouse, and I agree with you. The quote is this: Machado on Cease hitting Pahz. They've got way more superstars over there. If we want to hit somebody, they've got some big dogs over there we could hit. That, to me, is kind of the opposite of the Will Smith Profar quote.
Kind of, yeah.
Right? But it's Machado. I mean, he does this stuff all the time, so I'm cool with it. But isn't it kind of the opposite Profar quote?
A little bit. It is a great insult.
Yeah, it's a great insult, which is what Will Smith did to Profar.
Right. Yeah. It's a great, but here's the thing. I feel like, no, I mean, I guess they both singled each other out. Like Will Smith singled out Profar, and I guess
he's basically
singling out Andy
Pahz. Who do you
Pahz.
think you are, man? You're not Mookie Betts.
But I will give that. I will give it to Manny there. That is a great insult.
No, I'm with you.
It's like, who are you? That's why, like, the insult that I always jokingly throw out there, like when we talk about fat, I'm like, who? Like, if you throw out a who to somebody,
right? You're like
who are you?
Right?
Huh? And it's like, you know who I am. You're like, no, I don't. You know, it's just such a great insult to throw out the who? Who are you?
Yeah,
that's essentially what they did.
Here's the problem with last night. I said this in real time. I was all excited for it. The top of the first inning was good. No, but it was good theater until it wasn't. The Padres didn't hold up their end of the bargain. Top of the first, great. The Pahz Cease thing, great, and then unraveled. Well, that was it.
That's what happens when you have a 5 through 9 in your lineup that are just automatic out after automatic out after automatic out. You're getting at least 2 innings there of nothing going on. And the top of your order with Tatis, Arise, and Manny aren't always going to just, move the line every single time that those three are up.
Right.
So you're going to have at least 1 or 2 innings maybe where they go down in order. And when that happens, you have a bottom of a lineup that's just god awful. So there's 3 innings right there. That's essentially how the game ended. 3 innings of nothing because you have nobody in the bottom of your lineup or frankly the middle of your lineup that can just move the line. They have a really hard problem to do that after 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, and it's like, am I expecting more tonight? I don't know. Again, without Merrill, last night their 6 through 9 is 0 for 14 with 6 Ks. Like that's a tough watch, and they're not facing like Glass now. They're not facing Yamamoto.
Well,
right?
Tonight is a bullpen night for the Dodgers, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, kind of like Game 3 at Petco, like last night a little bit.
But there are some guys that will be down for the Dodgers tonight.
Yeah.
So that's a good news. And you kind of feel like if that's the case and you face, who is that kid that threw Matt Sawyer?
Yeah, where's he though? Double A?
I think he's still with the Dodgers.
Is he
on the
big league roster?
I think he's an option to pitch tonight or one of these games.
Wow.
And if that were the case, guess what? Tonight, got to take advantage. You got to win tonight.
I can't believe they kept him around after that. I just never put any thought into it. I just figured he was on his way to AAA.
I honestly forgot about him.
Yeah.
But
Sour? Yeah, he's active.
So
wow, we might see him tonight.
We might see him and Kike tonight.
Yeah, I hope so.
Because we know the Dodgers love to just give up when they go down by like 6, 7, 8 runs, and then they throw out a position player.
I mean, this is a game. Now it's Randy Vasquez.
That's the issue here.
It's Randy Vasquez, but again, 2 of the games against the Dodgers last week, the offense showed up. They lost one of them because their defense sucked. The other they won with the Kike Hernandez, Matt Sawyer game where they won going away. Like, you're going to need to win it with your offense against the Dodgers. Like, I'm not counting on Vasquez going 5 innings of 1-run baseball and then my bullpen being flawless and winning 2-1. I mean, that would be great. They're capable of doing it. But against LA, I got to score, man. I got to count on my offense to give the pitching staff, give Vasquez breathing room. You can't say at Dodger Stadium the plan going in is to win 2-1 with my bullpen. That can't be the plan going in.
I think the plan should be you got to put 5 or 6 runs tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Minimum.
little wiggle room.
5 or 6 runs minimum, because Randy Vasquez has been walking a tightrope majority of this season.
Base runners galore.
And he was only allowed 4 innings against the Dodgers last time out,
That's right.
4 1/3.
Yeah.
Because of the numbers in the third time through the lineup. And Schilt had a rested bullpen, so he went for it. And it didn't work.
Right.
And he doesn't have a rested bullpen for tonight. For the most part.
Right.
For the most part. He does have an Estrada, Jason Adam, Robert Suarez. But like you gotta get some length.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to our general point, Jim, coming into the series. Like, not the series to lose 3 out of 4, which means not the night to fall down 0-2 in this series. I'm just telling you, as like frankly as I can say it, this is not the series to lose 3 out of 4. That's what you're staring at after losing game 1. And I'm not saying it defines your season. It doesn't. They can lose 3 out of 4 and they can still make the playoffs. I'm just saying it just feels like you play 10 straight games against the NL West. You've already lost a series to the Dodgers. You've already lost a series to the Diamondbacks. You're already losing a series to the Dodgers. What does it really say about you? How are you going to feel if you go 3-7 over those 10 games?
Well, it says that you're not playing good baseball.
Yeah.
Even though they claim that they're playing good baseball, they're lying to you. They still have plenty of time left. They have a potential move or two that might be coming. They have some starting pitching that might be coming back here pretty soon. In Yu Darvish, have no clue about Michael King. Gonna get hopefully Jackson Merrill back by the end of the week.
Yeah.
By the weekend at the latest.
Yep.
And then it goes back to just the main overarching factor here is if the guys they already have on this team don't start playing better, it doesn't matter. And that's kind of the general consensus here is you just need the guys that are in the lineup that are under contract on this team to start performing. Dylan Cease, Xander Bogaerts, Luis Ariz, Fernando Tatis Jr. Like, Darvish needs to come back and be healthy. You need those guys to perform. That's what they're here for. And if they don't perform and if they stay injured, then it's gonna be tough.
I wonder if Preller makes a move before the All-Star break or not. His MO has been everything from Luis Ariz and Dylan Cease last year to the moves he made at the deadline last year as well. Does he need to make a move before the deadline? We can discuss on the other side. The wrap is coming up at 4 p.m. Darnay Tripp, his thoughts on the Padres coming up at 5 p.m. from NBC7. If you miss Kyle Bonagura from ESPN, you'll hear that conversation at 4:30. But does Preller need to do it before the All-Star break to enhance this team's chances in the second half or not? That's next. This is Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, AM radio keeps vital voices accessible. Congress can secure its future, but we need your help. Text AM to 52886 now to support keeping AM radio in cars. Tell your member of Congress to pass legislation now and keep AM radio in cars. Standard message and data rates apply. The Wrap at 4 p.m. Darnay Tripp at 5 p.m. Our friend from NBC7, his thought. Like, I wonder if he differs with our overall assessment on the Padres or not. Like, is he more optimistic? I don't know if we're pessimistic. Truthfully, we're just watching how it's playing out in real time. Again, if you listen the first 20 games of the year, you would have thought we thought this team was going to win the World Series. Maybe. If you've listened the last 20 games, you'd think this team is in some trouble because they are, because we've watched it. So likely they're between the 14-3 and the team that they've played out over the last week, 2-5 in the last 7 or 4 under since the 14-3 start. I think we probably both think they're in the middle there. They're like what are they? Are they a high 80 win team? Are they a low 90 win team? That probably is who they are, right? Like, they're not an 80 win team. They're not a 98 win team. They're right in the middle.
Now, Mike Schilt doesn't like this word.
Yeah.
But baseball's a roller coaster, John. And the ups and downs of a season, especially if you're very passionate about the Padres, it's going to just go all over the place. Every win feels like the greatest thing ever. Every loss feels like season's over. Every series loss, definitely season over. Trade everybody. Series win. Oh, trade for everybody. This team's going to win 98 games, contend for a National League West title. That's
right.
That's just how baseball is. And look, we talk about every game in the moment. Yes. And do sometimes I overreact? Of course I do. But I do feel like we are looking at the trends of this team right now. And I don't like the trends at this moment. And, being as good as they were at the start of the season to where they are now with the injuries that have piled up, to the lack of production out of some really high priced players being very poor, you're kind of looking at this team saying they need XYZ, and then they need to play like this to be in a position that you feel good about. And that's kind of where we're at right now, hoping that they play better, hoping guys that are struggling play better, hoping that they make a move that helps them, and hoping that, we're not sitting here in a month being like, well, they just need to replicate exactly what they did in the second half of last year, which was the best record in franchise history over a 2-month span.
I still don't get the outcry over the lineup, because that's where the outcry right now has been placed.
Oh, move guys in the lineup.
If Schilt knew how to construct a lineup, this wouldn't be going on. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I mean, it's not to say that we're 100% right there. I get it. If a lineup struggles, you're going to ask to change it. That's just inherent and obvious. And they don't do it. And the lineup is out, and it's the same lineup. But
your boy Trent Book's in there?
No, I'm saying it's the same, because you're not going to add Jackson Merrill or Juan Soto or Jerkson Profar or Kyle Higashioka. Like, what do you want? Tatis leads off. I think it's fair. You might want to drop him down the lineup because of his theoretical power. I understand it, but he hasn't homered in forever. So Tatis, Arise, Machado, Sheets, Bogarts, Cronenworth, Iglesias, Lockridge, Maldonado. And they're like, lineup doesn't look good. That's because of what they have available. What can Mike Schilt do about that? If Tatis bats second and Arise bats first, is the team better? If Tatis hits fourth and Bogarts hits second and Arise bats first, is the team better? That's my question. I think I know the answer. I don't believe the team is better or scores more runs if they do that, but people want to disagree with me on that.
What I've always wanted to see a manager do.
Okay.
And it probably will never happen.
Okay.
And the Padres aren't in this like awful slump. They're just not playing good baseball right now. They put some runs on the board here of late, but they're just not consistent, and they're just kind of playing so-so. But what I've always wanted a manager to do when a team is just like, we've lost 8 of 10 and we haven't scored more than 3 runs in like 15 games. You know where I'm going with this?
Flip it?
No. Pick the names out of a hat to build a lineup.
instead of a fishbowl, put 9 pieces of paper.
Put the 9 pieces of
fishbowl.
paper in a fishbowl, and then just pick out of the fishbowl the names, and that's your lineup.
Here's what I like.
I've always wanted to see that.
What if we took it a step further and did it in a hopper like the NBA draft
Ooh.
and had cards?
Like
With,
tonight,
Tim Leeper,
Yeah.
not even Schilt. I want like Tim Leeper shows number 9, Jackson Merrill. Oh, wow.
no.
And then like you go all the way, number 1, Manny Machado. Like, well,
Number 1, Trenton Brooks. Oh,
by the way, there's no guarantee.
number 3, Martin Maldonado.
Right, because the truth is, you can change this up, and in any one game, anything can happen.
Mhm.
Like you could bat Machado 9th one game, he could hit 2 home runs. It's not like, or you could bat Machado first one game, and he'd go for 5 with 4 Ks. So like in any one game, anything can happen. I still go back to the point that it's the players, not the lineup. It's the players' performance, not the order of the lineup. Not to say a lineup can't be like maximized. It absolutely can, but they've crunched the numbers. It's not Mike Schilt just sitting there 5 minutes before the lineup card is doing like, oh man, I was drinking last night. What do you think? I mean, like they have a plan. They have a front office. They've thought this through, and this is what they got.
And when you have as little of options as the Padres do,
That's the thing.
you're going to be batting Xander Bogaerts 5th because they got no other option. And that's where the problem lies.
Mm-hmm.
When you have no other option, and then you're forced to put a guy who has a 600-ish OPS hitting 5th for you, that's making $26 million a year for the next decade. That's where the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Hey, let's move him down to 8th or 7th. Like, what else are you going to do?
That's where Merrill will help. That's where the Taylor Ward-esque left fielder can help. Again, you put a Rafi Devers in a lineup, and all of a sudden the lineup looks different because Rafi Devers is a special player. I'm not saying Merrill today is Devers today, and I'm not saying Taylor Ward is Rafi Devers. Make no mistake. But with some additions, you can put this lineup back to a way maybe that it operates more smoothly, like Xander Bogaerts batting 7th. As opposed to Xander Bogaerts batting 5th.
I really, really want one day, like in a meaningless game in September, you've already locked up a postseason spot. Your spot is locked in. I want the lineup to be picked out of a hat in front of the media.
I want that on TV.
Like
Padres.tv.
Well, they have like a 5-minute pregame show, so you're not going to see it.
Right.
Which is now sponsored, by the way. Did you see that last night?
Well, during the game, it's UC San Diego's in the top right corner, right?
Yeah, it's a little weird.
UC San Diego Health, maybe?
Yeah. The
like
entire
a watermark almost.
The entire broadcast. It's like the wrap-up show. You're now a sponsor, you get a watermark.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Anyway, I want just one time a manager at the end of the year in a meaningless game with the media during his scrum to be like, all right, here's today's lineup, everybody, and have a fishbowl with 9 pieces of paper in it, and then just pick the names out of the fishbowl.
Now, here's my question. Would you include all position players? As in bench players?
Oh, yes.
So then there's a possibility your bench is Machado, Tatis, Merrill, and Arise.
Right. I'm totally fine with that.
Because you're still available off the bench.
And if Manny gets picked and he gets hitting 8th in a meaningless game, cool. He gets 1 at bat, and then boom, he's out.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would love just one time.
What's wrong with that? Because
one time
there have been position players to play all 9 positions in a game. They've allowed players to play all 9 positions, including pitch and catch in a game. That's happened in baseball history. So don't give me like, well, the sport, you can't do it. No, you can do it. I think you can do it. You can have fun.
No, now you put it that way. Maybe you just have 9 names in all the positions, so you don't have to worry about that problem. If
the idea of like the sanctity of baseball, like how could you do this?
Like, oh, if Luis Campusano's on this team in September for some
first,
and you have Campy and Maldonado and Diaz on the lineup, like how that's not
we
gonna
can't have
work.
like 5 catchers. You're right. There's gonna have to be some rules.
So 9 players that were going to be in the lineup originally.
Put all 26 in.
Nah, screw it.
Put the pitchers. Yes, I want the pitchers though in a jar. So who's starting? Ryan Bergert. Come on down.
Well, you can't do that.
Okay, but you can put position players in a hat.
Yeah, if you have,
but you can't put the starter.
If you have 9 position players that are going to be in the lineup the next day, and then you just put all those names in a hat, and you just pick out of a hat during the media scrum, and that's how the lineup will look.
Guess what?
You can do that.
You can't do that. It'll never happen. On the other side, we'll get to the wrap to kick off hour 3. Darnay Tripp, NBC7 will join us coming up at 5 p.m. If you missed Kyle Bonagura from ESPN on the latest with the Pac-12, San Diego State, and realignment, you'll hear that coming up. at 4:30. Plus, we're giving away today a pair of tickets to see Billy Currington. That's coming up Saturday, July 19th, Gallagher Square at Petco Park. But the wrap is next. This is Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app.
All right, this update is brought to you by Temecula Valley Balloon and Wine Music Festival. Padres Dodgers, game 2 of their 4-game series tonight up at Dodger Stadium. 7:10 first pitch. Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres. Game 5 of the NBA Finals last night went to the OKC Thunder. They now lead that series 3-2. Bad news for the Pacers, though. Tyrese Hallebertton has a strained calf. His availability for game 6 is now up in the air. And game 6 tonight of the Stanley Cup Final in Florida, Panthers and Oilers. Panthers have a 3-2 series lead there. They're looking to win the cup for consecutive seasons. Temecula Valley Balloon and Wine Music Festival is happening June 20th through the 22nd, featuring Walker Hayes, Cody Jinks, Alabama, and more. Tickets are available now at TemeculaValleyFestival.com, powering the best events from start to finish. Events.com.
It's Jon and Jim to warm up that drive home.
Again, you're not rallying. Manny Machado hits a home run. It's still a home run. 6-3. 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, you do nothing. I know it's just one game, but we've said that a lot. They're 2-5 in their last 7. They're 4 under since 14-3. It's not one game. It's a trend. It's a 2-month trend.
Dating back to Game 4 of the NLDS last year, the Padres have now lost 5 of 6 to the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And it's not really been close.
Now, time for Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 3 of Jon and Jim. We're here until 6. Getting you ready for Padres and Dodgers game 2 tonight from Dodger Stadium in LA. Darnay Tripp, NBC7, will join us at 5 p.m. He has done some research. I mean, some serious deep diving research.
Yes, he has.
To help this show.
Now, do we
talk about his research before he joins us at 5 or hold off?
Or do we be good friends of Darnay Tripp
and hold off
and let him release this news?
Well, here's the thing.
Social
Looking
media.
at our rundown. We got the rapid 4 where we still need to put a question in. That's fine. No big deal. We have 4:15 blank.
Okay.
We have a replay of Kyle Bonagura.
Okay.
I'm just giving it to everyone like bluntly.
Right.
Okay. Then 4:45. We're still looking for some content there too, if I'm going to be honest. Then we got Darnay at 5. My question is, can we hold off until 5? Or do we spend 10 minutes stealing his work and sharing it with our audience? I think the right thing to do is wait until 5 p.m. So that's why I want to do it at 4:15.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. We'll wait.
Why don't we talk about
Yeah, talk about it on the air. What do you think we should talk about during the show? That's cool.
Let's do a little brainstorm.
What do you think? This
All
is
right.
like pick the lineup. Let's have 10 topics we pull out of a fishbowl.
Oh, perfect.
And we'll be like, yeah, what do you got? Want to talk about Pictionary from today?
No, I don't.
Okay.
How about we talk about briefly the fact that you today in the mail received your first ever Gem Mint 10.
No, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. Chris might be listening. I don't know. What do you got?
True. That's what I'm saying. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out over the hour. But that's why what Darnay just tweeted about, and follow Darnay, by the way, at Darnay Tripp, could be useful for our listeners, but we'll do it at 5 p.m. We'll do it at 5 p.m. We'll talk to Darnay about it.
Did you see? I have something.
Yeah.
Wait. Did you see what Rafi Devers said today in his introductory press conference?
That he'll play anywhere?
That he's open to playing anywhere. He'll do whatever the team says.
It doesn't surprise me because oftentimes when you're dealing with infighting, like it's just like like it's just in the here and now.
Yeah.
And then something changes in a relationship or a dynamic and the people change.
It reminds me of the Jimmy Butler trade.
Okay.
From Miami this past season to the Warriors, where in Miami that relationship was cooked and there was just hatred on both sides. You know, Jimmy to Pat Riley and Pat Riley vice versa to Jimmy. Gets traded to the Warriors. I'll do anything for this team. I'll my minutes, my shots. I will literally do anything for this team. Now again, he got paid once he got traded to the Warriors, so that probably helped a lot. But it just shows you, and Pat Riley is one of the best just front office executives in the history of basketball, right? But when you look at the Red Sox here, and you look at how this Rafi Devers, I guess, drama saga ended and how it all came about, was the simple fact that the communication between the both sides were awful. And look, Rafi Devers going into this season isn't going to go to the Red Sox front office and be like, hey guys, I know I've been playing third base for, my entire career with you guys. So I just wanted to double check to make sure that, I'm still your third baseman. Why would he do that? Why would he go to the Red Sox at the beginning of the year before they signed Alex Bregman and just, double check that he's still the third baseman for the Red Sox when he's been the third baseman for the Red Sox for his entire career?
I mean, it reminds me a little bit, honestly, once a relationship goes sour, it's tough to get back. I mean, it reminds me of Preller Melvin. It's like, it's like the Dr. Seuss book I always talk about. When you have two stubborn people that are unwilling to move, They just stare at each other, and the world goes on around the two people. So Preller Melvin is a good example. Devers, Red Sox. You're talking type A. When you get type A superstars and money involved, you are basically sometimes going to end up in those situations. Happens all the time in the NBA. Happens, it happens in professional sports is my point. I think the winner in this is the San Francisco Giants.
I do too.
And we'll see if that's true or not. I think they're the winner. That's got to happen on field. If Devers is going to be the team first guy over the next 8 or 9 years, that remains to be seen. He will be to start it here in 2025. But I think in the short term and probably in the medium and long term, the winner here is the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, I think it's as much on the Boston Red Sox as it is on Rafi Devers.
I agree with that.
Probably more so.
Yeah.
Now, again, we don't cover the Red Sox on a daily basis, so there's probably a lot there that's under the blanket that we don't really know about. But
he made strong public statements, which is always interesting.
Yeah,
from a player,
right?
It's one thing to do it. You're right. I think here's my guess: both sides have a level of blame, and more of it is on the Red Sox.
Yes,
that's my guess.
I agree.
And by the way, this should have no impact on the San Francisco Giants negatively.
None. What
happened in Boston shouldn't impact Devers, in my opinion. In fact, again, the thing about the Giants making this move, I don't even know how we went down this path right now, is this is exactly what they needed. Like, it's one thing if, like, there have been moves that the Padres have made before where you're like, oh, Adam Frazier, he had a nice first half, but you don't need him. Now you're putting squares in circles. The Giants need a hitter in their middle of the lineup that's formidable. They haven't had a 30 home run hitter in a season. You know this. We all know. You know the last time it was Barry Bonds. They have not had a Giant hitter with 30 home runs since 2004. They desperately needed this. So they take advantage of the dysfunction. That's a win for them. Boston, I don't know. They're winning game. I don't know what it means for Boston in the short term. I would think in the long term, it's not a good move. I don't know. I mean, they doubled down yesterday. We read it. Craig Breslow is saying, we think we're going to win more games without him. I don't agree with him, but we'll know in 4 months if it's true or not.
Yeah, it's a move the Giants desperately needed. And to your point of like Adam Frazier, like the Padres didn't need Adam Frazier. Padres didn't need Xander Bogaerts.
There you go.
Like that's the difference here. It's like, when you need somebody, when you're the Padres, it's like it's sometimes position player wise, the fit doesn't always work.
That's why we liked to rise last year. They did need
it worked
a catalyst
perfectly.
Yeah,
as a leadoff hitter, he hit over 300. Now he got injured. He didn't really perform. He wasn't the same.
But man, when he was going last year, those first 50 games or something.
Dude, I remember a series in Arizona. One of his first
4 hits.
It was incredible. Yeah. It was incredible. Like, where's that Luis Ariz this year? Unless he's hurt again, we don't know about it. But where is that Luis Ariz? Right. But yeah, back to the just the Giants and the Red Sox saga and what Rafi Devers said today to the San Francisco media. I think at the end of the day, the Red Sox here bear most of the blame. Not saying that Rafi Devers doesn't deserve any blame either. He absolutely does, because once you go public with everything that's behind closed doors, then you're a part of a problem and you've escalated a situation. It's like, why did you say that?
Right.
We've been in that position before. It's like, why did you guys say that? Well, we said it. Can't go back now.
Sure.
But it all started with the lack of communication from the Red Sox to signing Alex Bregman to saying that, Rafi Devers is not going to be your third baseman anymore, when Rafi's like, wait, what? And then basically telling him through the media, you're going to be our first baseman now. And he's like, I'm not playing first. I was like, what?
This is the equivalent, and this might be a hot take here, and I'm not trying to make it a hot take because I don't.
Come on, Emmanuel Acho.
Here, I'm gonna give you a hot take. I'm gonna give you a hot take. I got to be careful how I say this. This is the equivalent of the Padres and Machado going sour in year 2. He was 27, okay, and Devers is 28. This is the equivalent of it going sour with Machado in year 2.
What? How so?
I'm saying if this happened, I'm saying that a Devers player on the move at this age. Because he signed a 10-year deal for $300. Devers signed a 10-year deal for $300.
I thought you did. I thought you said that it did go sour with the Padres.
No.
Okay, I got you.
But imagine the Padres in year 2 of Machado here, right in his prime, trading him away because of communication issues, malcontent, discontent, whatever. It didn't work. Forget about the return for a second. But what I was going to say, I don't think it's that hot of a take. It's not to disparage Machado, who's a first ballot Hall of Famer and doing things that nobody's going to do in the future, 500 and 3,000 potentially. I think you could argue Devers is it might be a hot take. I think you could argue Devers is a better hitter. Now, he's younger. He's 4 years younger. He's a true power hitter. Machado's an everything hitter. He's a hitter for average. He's a gap to gap, 30 home run
I don't
guy.
think it's that wild of a take.
It's not that right. But I mean, again, to say it here, where Machado's in his 7th season and trending towards a Hall of Fame plaque with the Padres hat, I'm saying is a strong statement to say that Rafi Devers is a definitively better hitter than Manny Machado. But that's what we're talking about. You're talking about trading Manny Machado as a 27-year-old in his 2nd year. Like, that has far-reaching ramifications, and that's the type of move that maybe has played out depending on what Devers does here on the other side of it.
And what the Red Sox have done is, by using former Red Sox like Big Papi and Kevin Millar, and what, Craig Breslow and I don't think John Henry's spoken, but the president, whoever their president is, I think he was on WEI. I don't know.
Yeah,
is they have just tried their hardest to smear the name of Rafi Devers.
And Devers, to his credit, hasn't taken the bait the other way. They're like, do you have any regret? Like, do you have anything to say to Boston? No, it happened. I've nothing poor to say about the Red Sox.
And they have done a really good job in Boston. I don't think it's working because I think Red Sox fans are smarter than that.
Yeah, I agree.
But they have done a good job of what their ultimate goal was after trading Devers, which is make him look like the bad guy, smear his name as much as possible, and discredit him as a player and how he didn't fit our culture here.
The only thing they can do, the one thing that kind of softens the blow in Boston, is if they do win. This is I just saw on ESPN, it's their longest winning streak in over 2 years. They've won 6 straight. They're well over 500 right now. They're going to Oracle, by the way, this weekend. How about that?
That's
how crazy is that?
Yeah.
Red Sox in San Francisco. It would be maybe more wild the other way. Devers in Boston.
Yeah.
As opposed to Devers in San Francisco, but there's a lot of tentacles to that story, is the point. And I think it's a fair comp, though. What if the Padres traded Machado in his 2nd season here? And what would that mean for the franchise and the franchise he was traded to?
That would mean pitchforks outside of Petco Park.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get to the wrap now. On the other side, Darnay Tripp will join us at 5 p.m. with the deep dive he took today on social media to share with our listeners. You'll hear from Kyle Bonagura, ESPN, on Pac-12 and what comes next with the clock ticking when it comes to realignment. You'll hear that coming up at 4:30, but the wrap is next. This is Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. ESPN's Kyle Bonagura on the Pac-12. And what comes next? If you missed it, you'll hear it at 4:30. Darnay Trip at 5 p.m. Let's get to this. We typically get to the wrap at 4. We didn't, so let's get to the wrap.
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Are the Thunder a lock to win the NBA Finals now?
Yes, 100%. With the Tyrese Hallebertton injury,
Yeah, that hurts.
yeah, big time. I think this thing is over in Game 6. This
Could be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like everything the Thunder have been, have dealt with as far as down in a series, they've overcome all of it. And they deserve to win the NBA title. This is not it's not been a cakewalk for them. They have, gone 7 games against the Nuggets. This has been a tough series from every game has been close-ish, right? There's not been like many blowouts. I think this one is completely over. Now the question is who's going to win the Finals MVP? Shea, right? Shea's the Finals MVP.
Shea. He's had a 40-point game. The scoring numbers are there. He's the biggest star. I mean, Jalen Williams is unbelievable.
Jalen Williams had a Jalen Williams 40-point game there.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
So that's possible.
But Shea in game 4 down 2-1.
Huge.
That last 3 minutes, that got him the Finals MVP.
Yeah, push off.
Yep. Well,
Yeah, but the shot.
the shot. Yeah.
It almost reminds me it's going to be a Tatum Brown situation like with the Celtics, where Tatum got a lot of the credit, but Brown was also
The
scoring
one-
a lot of
yeah.
points.
This is what I would say. The Thunder are going to win this. I have a sliver of hope for the Pacers just because of how they're pulling rabbits out of hats. It's my only thing. If there's anyone that would do it, it's this really unique Pacers team that has found ways, but I'm with you on Hallebertton. That's a gut punch if you're a Pacers fan.
Yep.
Not that he's not playing in Game 6, but will he be 100%? Next question.
Are the Dodgers a lock to win the NL West? You'll see if there's a theme today.
No, they are not a lock because they are dealing with so many injuries. Now they played great against the Padres, but they aren't a lock.
Right.
They were like 15 games up already on June 17th.
Then they'd be a lock.
They'd be a lock. They're not a lock. There's still a ton of time in the season. Things could go wrong, but they are the heavy favorites. That's for sure.
No, I completely agree with you. I'm just going to look at Fangraphs, and they give the Dodgers this % chance to win the division. Guess just division, not playoffs. Their chance to win the division.
75%.
Higher.
80%.
Higher.
90%.
Lower.
85.
88.
Okay.
87.9 technically. This is what it is.
Jeez.
Now, that still means, would you get on a plane with an 87.9% chance of landing? I won't.
No, John.
After all these talks I've had. 87.9. They give the Giants an 8% chance. They give the Padres a 2.2% chance. That's 1 in 50. Not great. They give the Diamondbacks a 1.9% chance. Also around 1 in 50.
Yeah.
So, again, not a lock. I'm with you. It is not a lock, but there's a very high likelihood they win the division. Next question.
Are the Panthers a lock to win the Stanley Cup tonight?
No.
No?
Because hockey can sometimes be weird. But with me saying that, Panthers are going to win like 6-1 tonight.
They're at home.
I have been wrong about so many things lately. The NBA, like everything, I have been just so wrong, especially about the Stanley Cup final. So,
well, it's not like you're supposed to be right. You're not like a hockey insider.
who cares? It's
Right?
just whatever. It's literally throwing dart on a dartboard, see if it sticks.
So you don't think the Panthers are a lock?
No, they're a lock.
They're going to win tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was in Edmonton, I'd have faith it would go 7 games. It's in Florida. I don't have any faith. But
Now,
I'm rooting for Edmonton.
do you think that Emmanuel Acho, the loudmouth hot take Emmanuel Acho, if the Oilers lose tonight, will go scorched earth on Connor McDavid like he did on Tyrese Hallebertton?
Because does he know who Connor McDavid is?
No, he doesn't know
No.
really much.
There's
but-
so little discussion around the Stanley Cup, obviously, on television other than during the games. But they need a 7th game. The NBA needs a 7th game. To make these things compelling and
That'd be
really
awesome.
bring people to their televisions, they need a 7th game.
Yep.
Next question.
Will Rafael Devers be the first Giants player to hit 30 home runs in a season since 2004?
So I guess this would include his year to this point, obviously. Which is what, 14 home runs?
No, I think it's like 15 or 16.
Okay.
Well, does that even count then?
I don't know. Probably not. He has 15. You're right. So no, I guess that wouldn't really count. I mean, it's not really 30 home runs in a Giants uniform if he had 15.
Yes, he had 45.
Yeah, right. 30.
Yeah.
Well, he's not hitting 30 in a Giants uniform this year.
So he's hit 30 home runs 3 times in his career.
Okay.
2019, 2021, he had 38. And then 2023, he had 30.
Mm-hmm.
But he is well on his way to 30 home runs this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he will be.
Yeah, he should get to 30.
He should get there. I mean, looking at Devers, we talked about Manny versus Devers here. And again, you have to also factor in ballpark as well.
Yep.
Manny playing at Petco for as long as he has. Rafi playing at Fenway.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he is a left-handed hitter. So majority of his home runs, right? That short porch there, not off the Green Monster or not over the Green Monster.
Right.
But if you overlay his stats and his extra base hits at Oracle Park, all of his home runs are home runs.
Yeah, he's not like how much is he really benefiting from pesky pole? I mean, the guy has real power. He's not hitting 320-foot home runs.
I mean, some of his numbers are.
Yeah, he's got gaudy numbers.
It's if you're the Padres and you're a Padres fan, you don't want this guy in your division.
No, you see him a lot.
You do not want this guy in your division. And guess what? This is not just a 2 or 3 year thing. This is like the next 8 seasons.
I mean, you look at the players in this division, not just the Dodgers, that Arizona lineup that we've talked about being as good as any against right-handed pitching. Now, Rafi Devers, San Francisco is annoying enough without Devers, right? They were causing enough problems just with the start of their year. This is a problem.
He already has 215 career home runs.
Big number.
His lifetime OPS is 859. His career OPS plus is 129.
Yeah, that's why I said. I mean, I think he's a comparable hitter to Machado, and there's a lot of metrics that would tell you he's been a better hitter. Again, Machado's been an amazing hitter, but that's how good Devers is, I guess is the point. I mean, Devers is that good of a player. So it's a big pickup, obviously, a huge one potentially for San Francisco. All right, if you missed Kyle Bonagura, there's a lot going on right now when it comes to the Pac-12, and the clock is ticking, and he wrote a piece this weekend with Pete Thamel, the latest reporting on the Pac-12 and realignment and what comes next. You'll hear from Kyle Bonagura from ESPN on the other side. Plus this hour, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see Billy Currington. This is coming up Saturday, July 19th, Gallagher Square at Petco Park. Stay with us. Again, on the other side, Kyle Bonagura from ESPN. This is Jon Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app.
This update's brought to you by Indeed.com. Padres Dodgers game 2 of their 4-game series tonight up at Dodger Stadium. 7:10 first pitch. Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres. And game 6 of the Stanley Cup final is tonight in Florida. Panthers and Oilers. Panthers have a 3-2 lead there. The Panthers are looking to win the Stanley Cup for the second consecutive season. When you're trying to find quality candidates, all the searching, screening, and interviewing can become a job itself. You need Indeed, the all-in-one platform that makes it easy to interview, screen, and hire quality people. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
All right, Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Your chance in 15 minutes to win a pair of tickets to see Billy Currington. This is Saturday, July 19th, Gallagher Square, Petco Park. And coming up at 5 p.m., Darnay, we kept our promise that we didn't even make. We will wait until you join us, Darnay Trey from NBC7, to talk about your tweet that was so well thought out within the last hour.
This stat is all yours, buddy.
And you're going to share it with our listeners coming up at 5 p.m. Our listeners could just go to Twitter and find Darnay, but if you're not going to do that, he'll join us coming up at 5 p.m. But we had Kyle Bonagura from ESPN on the show earlier, a great college football reporter with ESPN. He works with Pete Thamel. And we started the conversation because he's been writing about the Pac-12 and realignment. We started the conversation earlier about the timeline and the timeline that the Pac-12 is currently working with.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a number of different factors that kind of play into that, right? So the most important, item they have to get figured out is you need an 8th member to play football. Like, those are the rules the NCAA has set to be a functioning conference. So they have to have the 8th member by the 2026 season. So obviously for that to happen, you need a little bit of a runway, right? And so they're kind of up against it where to get everything in order in time, they need to have it wrapped up this summer. If you kind of press in on that a little bit closer, there's a July 1 date where the buyout, for Texas State in particular, jumps from $5 to $10 million. And so for a school like Texas Tech, which is going to be footing their buyout most likely, that's a $5 million increase that they don't want to pay, right? And as the Pac-12 is trying to be a good partner with Texas State, you would assume that they would try to get this thing done before then. So those are the kind of the 2 dates that are looming in terms of Texas State. As far as the media rights deal is considered, I think that, while they're kind of operating on parallel paths there, that's also something that the Pac-12 would like to have wrapped up sometime this month. Now, whether that's before or after a potential announcement of Texas State, I don't think it's necessarily too important. It just happens to be that they're going to get, should be wrapped up in a similar time frame.
Why does Texas State make the most sense for the Pac-12?
Yeah, I mean, look, beggars can't be choosers is one of them, right? There's only so many options geographically that are going to make sense. And, of course, we can joke about geography not mattering so much in college football anymore. But certainly when you get outside of the power conferences and the TV revenue, it's not the same. It's harder to justify, playing in a conference outside your geographic footprint at this tier of the sport, right? And so, when you start looking at, okay, who are the schools that are in play? Most of the Mountain West schools have kind of pledged an allegiance to that conference to remain there. They signed the grant of rights to remain there for the next few years. Those things can be negotiated away as well. So you can't write off the possibility of one of those schools changing their minds and wanting to go to the Pac-12 at some point. I don't expect that to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. The financials just don't make a lot of sense at this point in terms of what buyouts and all that sort of stuff would look like. And so once you get past the Mountain West schools and you say, okay, they're pretty much all off the table, then where do you go, right? You start moving out time zone by time zone, and there's only so many schools that make sense or are interesting. Texas State certainly being in Texas, kind of up and coming as a football program. They've done a lot of nice things. They're developing their program. It kind of is a process of elimination. There has to be reciprocal interest. I mean, I think the Pac-12 would love to get Memphis. There's a few other AAC schools that would be of interest, but again, the Pac-12 isn't going to have the media rights deal to make it so appealing that they're going to jump from the AAC. Whereas that's not the case with Texas State, who's ready to jump from the Sun Belt.
It's interesting you bring that up. Kyle Bonagura is with us from ESPN. He wrote about this over the weekend with Pete Thamel. So you mentioned Memphis, and there was a portion of this article that discusses the possibility of Memphis kind of splitting off football to play against Pac-12 opponents. So join the Pac-12 in football and then, quote unquote, like park its other sports in the Big East. Is that, what's the likelihood or possibility there? I mean, is that a maybe, or is that something that's been discussed and is something that is feasible or possible?
Yeah, so a lot of things can be true, right? It's something that has been discussed. I think at this stage, it's more theoretical. Like, look, what would this look like? Did that make sense for us? But I think it'll be a few years before that could be some sort of realistic possibility. And I think as we've all learned in college sports over the last few years, what the landscape looks like today versus what it's going to look like in 3 years is completely different, right? And so it's something that's intriguing to Memphis because I think that they would like their football program to be placed a little bit more prominently, and I think this new look Pac-12 will be it'll be looked at more favorably than the AAC, not by a lot, but I think it's pretty clear that this group of schools in the Pac-12 is a little bit of a cut ahead. But at the same time, the media revenue, like I was just saying, isn't such an increase where you can justify moving all your other sports. And so Memphis, you're kind of getting further enough across the country where having the Olympic sports, compete against schools in the Northwest and the West Coast, that's not too appealing, right? You can't make the same justification that a school like Oregon or Washington or the LA schools did to join the Big Ten, right? Or even Stanford and the AAC or the ACC rather. So I think that's why they would be open to the idea of playing football outside of whatever the conference they end up in with their other sports. And at the same time, I think it's certainly reasonable, even likely that nothing changes and they stick with the AAC too. There's just so many moving pieces and variables here to try to handicap that far out into the future with much clarity is really tough to do.
Kyle, is there any update with what's playing out like behind closed doors with the Pac-12 and the Mountain West, and how much of this is tied to like those mediation efforts? You got mediation, you have a media deal, you have expansion. How are these all tied together, or are they individual pieces that aren't necessarily all tied and connected?
Yeah, so I think they're loosely connected, right? Because if, the Mountain West, the way they had this like scheduling agreement drawn up with the Pac-12, they were trying to protect themselves against, getting poached. They included poaching penalties. The contract, and I've read it, calls for several $1 million per school if the Pac-12 were to have grabbed these Mountain West schools. And it all adds up to about $55 million on paper. The Pac-12 is fighting that. They're saying this is an illegal clause. This shouldn't have been allowed in the contract. Mountain West is like, well, you signed it. Here it is. So they're in mediation now to determine, what happens to that $55 million. And I'm not going to pretend to have a great sense of where that's going to end up, but look at the two ends of the spectrum, right? If the Pac-12 doesn't have to pay anything, that's $55 million of savings that they can put towards whatever they want, whether that's helping with a buyout for another school, whether it's, enticing, paying out more to their current schools. There's a whole number of ways they could use that money. And the same goes for the Mountain West, right? If they have this $55 million from the Pac-12, that makes them a little bit more. They have the freedom to go chase different schools and improve their conference in certain ways, right? I think what's probably going to happen is it ends up in the middle. I think that's why they're in mediation. They don't want to. Neither side wants to really gamble that you'll get stuck too far to one side of the equation. So that's kind of where the mediation is coming from. There's also individual buyouts with the schools that are involved in that as well. And so, look, if all of a sudden the Pac-12 has, let's just use a number just to make the math easy, $50 million more than they have now as a result of how mediation plays out, maybe if you can use that to incentivize Memphis to come for football, right? So maybe it helps you, change the look and the makeup of the conference down the road. But that stuff still has some time to play out. I don't think anyone has a great sense of when mediation will arrive at any sort of finality.
Kyle Bonagura, ESPN with us. Just a couple of more, Kyle. What about the media figure in terms of dollars for these schools? Will the Pac-12 schools be receiving more money than the AAC schools, for example, in your estimation?
So I think what's going to happen is, like, eventually in the next AAC contract, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but like I think eventually the football deal for the Pac-12 will be more than the ACC, but in the short term, it's also not going to be as high as what some of these consultants had kind of projected. There was like numbers that came out in these, like San Diego State was certainly pitched on the idea that the TV revenue could be as high as $15 million a year. They're not going to touch that. Like, I don't think there's any expectation now in a kind of college sports landscape that it's going to be above 10 even at this point. I think what's kind of still important to understand is, like, the TV payout will be higher than it would have been in the Mountain West. There's other revenue generators that the Mountain West, the schools that have moved over, will benefit from. But still, this is still not a power conference, right? Like, it's going to be a good, fun, regional football conference, but it's still, it's going to be tens of millions of dollars below the other tier of the sport. And I think where it nets out will be comparable to the ACC, whether it's $1 million here, $1 million there. I'm not sure who will end up in head, and ultimately, I'm not sure that when we're talking about $1 million, $2 million there, it really will make much of a difference either.
And then my last one would just be: is there any like wild card in this? Like, the Texas State has been discussed for months. Memphis and some other AAC schools have been discussed maybe for close to a year at this point. There's St. Mary's basketball that's out there on the periphery. Is there any like completely outside the box thinking under the radar that still could play out in the coming weeks, or is that more and more less likely as we get closer to some of these deadlines?
Yeah, I think I think anything that is likely at this point has probably been, bandied about publicly at this point. Mm-hmm. If there's another school that's being discussed, I would have reported it by now, right? So if anything else is happening, I'm unaware of it. But there's a lot of this, and Pete and I wrote about this in the story. Like, a lot of this is cloak and dagger, right? And so there is stuff that's going on behind the scenes that people don't find out about. And then it pops. I mean, I go back to when UCLA and USC announced on the same day, like, that came out of nowhere, right? And so that stuff can happen, and until it does, it's hard to predict. But again, there's just so few possibilities at this stage of realignment. Like, the trickle down effect has gotten to this point in college sports where there's just no one left. I mean, you could talk about a school like Sacramento State moving up from FCS, something like that. You could see down the line, but I think for the time being, most of the possibilities that have a real likelihood of coming this summer are public, or people have at least discussed it, I guess.
Kyle, appreciate you taking time for us in San Diego. Really good reporting. We will be watching and reading and awaiting the next step here for the Pac-12. And thanks for hopping on here today in Southern California.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, great stuff. Darnay Tripp will join us coming up at 5 p.m. Be listening, though, on the other side. We're giving away 2 tickets to see Billy Currington Saturday, July 19th, Gallagher Square, Petco Park. Darnay Tripp and the Padres are getting you ready. We hope to hear from Mike Schilt in the 5 o'clock hour as well. If you're on hold, we'll get your calls on the other side as well. 877-767-4760. This is Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, we've got a giveaway, a givey, if you will. A pair of tickets to see Billy Currington.
You got a givey.
This is to celebrate Live Nation's $30 ticket to summer, Saturday, July 19th, Gallagher Square, Petco Park. Make it a summer of live music with $30 concert tickets to 1,000+ shows on sale now, livenation.com/ticket to summer.
That's what we call prizes if Schilt was the head of our promotions department.
Oh, absolutely. Givvies. Yeah,
Givey.
he would love that.
Givvies and prizes.
He would love that.
You would be Johnny. I'd be Jimmy. Brent would be
Brenty, I guess.
And the giveaways would be givvies.
Givvies. Everything has to end with an Y.
All right, let's go to the phones because Matt's been patient. I think he wants to weigh in on the Padres and the upcoming trade deadline. 877-767-4760 if you want to weigh in. But Matt, thanks for calling in. Thanks for your patience. You're on with Jon and Jim. What's up, man?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So my question is, at what point in the season are you guys determining the team buying or selling? And also, what type of performances do you need to see from the team to make a determination for either?
Matt, thank you. I mean, it's a
question.
It's a good point. I mean, a lot of teams wait until very close to the deadline because then they have all the info. Like, hey, we're 4 games over 500. Should we go for it? We're 3 games out of a playoff spot. Should we sell? So I think a lot of teams want all that information. That's not a prerequisite. That's not how the Padres always operate, or the Giants, for example, just a couple of days ago. But I don't see them as sellers.
No, I think teams with expectations going into the season that are of postseason aspirations or World Series aspirations are going to wait as long as they possibly can to determine if they're buyers or sellers.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember 2023, they waited until like that final series before the deadline before determining we're going to go out and be buyers. And that's as late as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
Some teams kind of feel it out and say, okay, we might have something special here. We might have something cooking like the Giants. And they're like, we're not going to wait. We're making a move now. Same thing with Preller last year. He's like, I'm not waiting around. Now the moves came significantly more early than what the Giants just did, like with Arise and with Cease. But I think it would have to be like a situation where they do play another, if they're 500 at the deadline, you might rethink things depending on how the rest of the National League looks. Even at 500, I think they're still going to consider themselves like in contention.
I mean, 500 is a slippery slope, literally, because they were 11 games over. Right. When you go from, I said this last night, and I'll stick by it. There's 2 different ways to be 500. If you're Atlanta, for example, and you start slow and get there, you feel better than if you start fast and then end up there. So 500 to me, Jim, would be like the fascinating case. Would they actually buy? You know what they would do if they were 500? A bunch of nothing. They probably wouldn't sell off parts. They would add around the periphery nothing of substance. And they'd be like, hey, we're still in it and we're not selling off parts and we have 3 million fans. So we're not going to do that to our fans, which I get. But I don't think you're going like all in at 500. It's chicken egg stuff. You want to see them play really well, but does the GM double down when a team is just middling along?
It's AJ Preller.
Right.
He's always going to try and make his team better.
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time AJ Preller was a seller?
What did they do at the deadline in 2019? Machado's first year, I'm just asking. They were okay until the halfway point, and the wheels fell off.
I think they traded. When was Franmil Reyes? Franmil Reyes was like 2018, or was that 2019?
Just Googling.
I think it was 18.
Padres at the
18.
deadline.
Because that was when I first got here. Because he was here for about a year, and then they traded him.
I don't know.
Well, you're probably right. 2019 was not a year that I think they were thinking, oh, let's go trade for pieces to make this team better.
No, they did get Reyes. Reyes was traded in 2019.
Okay.
Yep, he was.
So the last time AJ Preller was a quote unquote seller was 2019.
Mm-hmm.
2020, obviously, he changed 60% of the team that year.
9 major league players acquired at the deadline. 9 players on the roster.
2021, I want to say they stood pat. Yeah. No, that was the Scherzer. That was Scherzer. Yeah. Sorry. 2022, Soto. 2023, Rich Hill and Garrett Cooper and G-Man Choi.
Yep.
Last year, Adam and Tanner Scott. And then also before then, they traded for Cease and Arise. So yeah, it's been 5 seasons since AJ Preller has been a seller. And look, that's what you want, because when you have Manny Machado under contract, you don't ever want to be a seller, especially in his prime, along with Jackson Merrill and Fernando Tatis Jr. You shouldn't be a seller. You should always be a buyer. Always. So I think it would take something like literally catastrophic, like everybody gets injured or they just lose like 15 in a row or something crazy, or for him to consider trading Cease and Arise. And I mean, last night someone asked, so they should trade King right now. He's not pitching. Nobody wants him. He's injured.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. By the way, never trust AI, because when I said, what did the Padres do at the trade deadline in 2019? And Google gives me the AI interview or overview. And they're like, acquired Taylor Trammell. And they're like, other deals, part of a 6-player trade that brought in Tanner Scott and Brian Hoeing. Like they did 7 years ago. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the Padres should not be sellers. That, like, with this type of payroll and with these types of expectations. And why would you be? I mean, they're 39 and 32 guys. They were 3 games under 500 last year at this point in Philadelphia. Yeah. There's no reason to talk selling right now. No. I get you might not be the most motivated buyer in the history of the sport. That'll be based on how they play, but there's no selling. I just don't see it.
Yeah, this is not a DEFCON 1 situation.
No,
yet.
Definitely not.
And even if they lose the next 3 to the Dodgers, yeah, will it suck and will it feel like sky's falling? This thing is over? Yes, it will. Right. Yes, it will. But they'll still be above 500, and they're still going to be in a place to contend for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, this is the stretch. This is the 17 games we obsessively talked about. We said, can they go 8-9 in this stretch of 17 games? And the answer right now is, what's the record in these 17 games?
7-10?
No, because they have 3 more games.
Oh, you're right. Let's look.
It's what are they? 7-8 in their last 15?
7-8, yeah.
But there's still 3. I think it's 6-8.
Okay, so we're talking about the start of the. When are we?
The 17 game stretch. Was the Dodgers at home? Was
it? Pittsburgh at home, San Francisco for 4, Milwaukee for 3.
It was San Francisco.
Oh, okay. So they're 2-2. They are 4-3, and then they are 5-5. Then they're 6-7.
They're 6-8, right?
6-8.
Okay, 6-8 with 3 to go. I think we all said we could live with 8-9. So that requires taking 2 of the next 3.
That would be correct, Sean.
But if they don't do that, 7-10 stretch over these 17 games, is not overly encouraging. All right, Darnay Tripp will join us on the other side. Call right now. Caller 5 is going to see Billy Currington Saturday, July 19th at Gallagher Square at Petco Park. That's caller 5. You have 2 free tickets to see Billy Currington Saturday, July 19th at Gallagher Square at Petco Park. Here's the number to call: 877-767-4760. Caller 5, you're going to see Billy Currington Saturday, July 19th, Gallagher Square, Petco Park. Again, the number to call: 877-767-4760. Darnay Tripp, NBC 7 on the Padres. Coming up next, Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, hey guys, it is Jon and Jim again for the all-new Jamul Casino Resort, the Players Place, and things are getting real this summer at Jamul Casino Resort. With a Lux Hotel Tower and a long list of new amenities, you'll have more ways to play and enjoy all the perks of your casino fun. Players, when it comes to satisfying your wants and needs, we're not playing around. This is way more than a place to game. It's a place you can play in every possible way. Opening late summer, reservations now open. Visit JamulCasino.com. That's JamulCasino.com.
And John, get ready to elevate your gaming experience with their brand new casino app. Get 200,000 bonus coins when you sign up and enjoy real rewards with every in-app purchase. Just play online at playhamulcasino.com. That's playhamulcasino.com.
Also, catch all the sports action at Tony Gwynn's Sports Pub plus Savory Bites, where fandom meets fantastic at the all-new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players Place.
All right, this update is brought to you by Rapid Radios. Padres, Dodgers, game 2 of their 4-game series tonight up in LA. 7:10 first pitch. Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres. Game 6 of the Stanley Cup final tonight in Florida, as the Panthers are looking to close out the Oilers and win the Stanley Cup for the second consecutive year. In game 5 last night, Pacers Thunder went to the Thunder. They have a 3-2 series lead. Game 6 will be Thursday night in Indy. Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. Business owners can keep in touch with up to 200 staff members at one time. Go to rapidradios.com now for up to 60% off and free shipping.
It's Jon and Jim to warm up that drive home.
Again, you're not rallying. Manny Machado hits a home run. It's a solo home run. 6-3. 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, you do nothing. I know it's just one game, but we've said that a lot. They're 2-5 in their last 7. They're 4 under since 14-3. It's not one game. It's a trend. It's a 2-month trend.
Dating back to game 4 of the NLDS last year, the Padres have now lost 5 of 6 to the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And it's not really been close.
Now, time for Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego, Southern California, what's going on? Final hour of Jon and Jim. We held up our part of the promise.
Yes, we did.
All right. Darnay Trip NBC7, seriously, in all seriousness, is a great, great follow for San Diego sports fans, Padres fans, Aztec fans, Wave, SDFC, whatever it is. Darnay's a great follow at Darnay Trip. Great watch at NBC7.
Did you just get the check that he sent us in the mail?
Here's the thing. I feel like I had to say it because I feel bad for Darnay because he has to deal with me and Jim
Correct.
way too often.
Yes.
We should not include him in a group thread for 57 straight hours, but we do. But Darnay, we did not discuss this with our listeners. We contemplated it because we had nothing else to talk about, but we waited until now. So let's start here because you crunched the numbers on like what it means to add a bat. All these people are counting on, well, if the Padres add a bat, they're going to be a lot better off, right? Well, you looked at some of these additions in recent years, and it doesn't always work out that way.
No, it doesn't. And appreciate you guys having me on as always. Always enjoy this interaction more so than the group text interaction.
We know.
Because you function like normal adults in these conversations as opposed to like the group text, which is like, imagine a group text with like a bunch of 8-year-olds, and that's essentially what it is, being on a group text with you guys.
Correct. Yes.
As far as the Padres go, by crunching numbers, you mean looking at baseballreference.com.
Yeah. Easy.
That was the extent of the math. I did use the calculator app to figure out some of the differences. But I looked at like OPS plus for a lot of guys they've picked up around the trade deadline in the last 5 years or so. And I mean, you could say the names off the top of your head, Mitch Moreland. There's maybe more obscure ones like G-Man Choi, Adam Frazier is a great example. Even Juan Soto, who performed at probably somewhere around an all-star level after he came to the Padres, but was like his OPS plus dropped like 30 some points. That's typically been the case. Jake Marisnick, there's Austin Nola even, who is serviceable, certainly. But if you go down the list, the trend has been these mid-season trade deadline type acquisitions just have not popped. Garrett Cooper really being the one exception. His OPS plus went from 89 to 99, which is right at league average. And so that's, this came up when I was talking to Derek last week on Fryer, and I've been meaning to look this up for a little while because this isn't breaking news to any of us. We've lived through it. We've seen these trade deadlines like 2021 when they were in desperate need of a bat. Adam Frazier was a weird positional fit, but you figured he'd hit 300 and keep the line moving at the very least, even if he didn't provide you any slug. But even he had a drop off from where he was that season where he had been so consistent for Pittsburgh. And so it just gives me a little bit of concern. Obviously, they went out and got Luis Arraez last year, and Luis Arraez was an all-star and won the batting title. So there are exceptions to this, but for whatever reason, there has kind of been diminishing returns for the large majority of these mid-season acquisitions. And it feels like we're at a place right now with the Padres where they can't afford to have that happen again. They seem to be in dire need of not one, but probably two bats.
Where are you at with your level of concern with the trends of this team offensively and in the pitching side as well with the injuries to King and Cease? Where's your level of concern at for this team?
Maybe growing, but I don't know if I'm quite. I don't even know if my hand is hovering over the panic button at this point. You need Jackson Merrill to come back. Obviously, that was a bummer what happened over the weekend. I'm certainly concerned about Michael King, and it seems like Yu Darvish is progressing, so that's hopeful. Tatis seems to be coming around. Machado's been incredible. So I don't know. And what we saw last year is like, look, they were a 500 ball club for 100 games, and then they out of nowhere just went on a tear. In this case, I mean, the last couple months or so, they've been really since like the 19 game mark, they've been a 500 or slightly below 500 club, and they've dealt with the injuries, they've dealt with some slumps and all that. So I don't know if I'm close to, sounding off any alarms or anything like that. It's a team I expect to be in playoff position somewhere in the mix, and we'll see what they look like in September. But, certainly nobody feels all that optimistic about what's going on right now because it has been a tough watch, certainly offensively and definitely in the bottom of the order of late.
Darnay Tripp, NBC7 with us. Once again, Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. How do you see things right now with Tatis? One hand, he's had multi-hit games. He's looked like the player we saw earlier. On another hand, it's amazing. He's gone 17 plus games without a home run. So where are you right now in Fernando Tatis Jr. and, his better play, but again, still lacking some of that slug we saw throughout the course of his career?
Yeah, and maybe that's something that will come around as he comes around, or at least that's the hope. You've seen him a little bit more consistent. What is it now? 4 straight multi-hit games.
Yep.
He hadn't had 3 this season before the weekend series against Arizona. You need the power. You need the power from somewhere in this lineup. The slug hasn't been there. There's obviously the conversation of, where he fits best in a lineup where you're not hitting a ton of homers and it seems like a lot of solo shots. And, if you have that guy hitting leadoff, there's fewer opportunities for him to do damage with guys on, especially when the bottom 3 in the lineup aren't giving you a whole lot. So I think I'm trying to be encouraged just because it seems like he's come back to life a little bit the last few days, and hopefully with that will come some power. It's just hard to tell kind of, mechanics where things are. He seems to have ditched the leg kick, which apparently is working well for him. But for as good as he was, as potent as he was early in the season, for whatever reason, the power's dropped off. And that's going to continue to be a concern just because he's one of the 2-3 guys, if you include Gavin Sheets, I guess Jackson Merrill to some degree as well, but it's kind of tailed off for him. There's just not a whole lot of power sources for this team. Tatis probably being the foremost, and this team needs that guy right about now.
Do you have any, and I mean any, faith that Xander will turn any of this around anytime soon?
I think there's always going to be that part of me that, like,
that guy.
you know who that guy was in Boston, and he's just, he, as far as we can tell, just like a good guy, hard worker. You can tell he wants it. You can tell that it bothers him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's when those guys are accountable, when you can tell they're kind of wearing it and feeling it, it's easier to kind of feel for them. Even though that contract is an albatross, as far as this team goes and their maneuverability during the offseason, and even now when you consider some of the potential additions. So, again, there's been some positive signs from him, but we've also seen that through the course of the season. We've talked about hard hit balls. We've talked about him coming through in some big moments. We haven't seen it with any sort of consistency. I would love for it to click. Do we have reason to think that all of a sudden it's going to happen? No, probably not. But I think the track record and just kind of the guy and the makeup, at least it holds inside of you just that little glimmer of hope that eventually something's going to click.
I couldn't believe when you tweeted last night, it was the first time all year he had extra base hits in consecutive games. I know the home runs haven't been there, but that did surprise me. That was the first time all season he had back-to-back games with extra base hits. What do you make of Dylan Cease, even within the one start, from throwing 100.4 or 100.5 and 5 consecutive strikeouts to just completely laboring against, again, an elite offense, obviously, and it's at Dodger Stadium. But that's kind of like a microcosm of his year, where there's been some good, there's been some bad, and we saw it all in one night.
Literally the word microcosm popped in my head like a second before you said it. And it does feel right. I mean, he's been kind of inconsistent. He'll have one start where he looks kind of like Dylan Cease and another where he comes back to earth, and he just hasn't been as reliable as this team needs him to be. It's hard to maybe tell why, if it's a control pitch location thing. Maybe it's I feel like there's parallels between he and Blake Snell. He's gone deeper, I think, more consistently than Blake Snell, and has kind of that will and determination to get you that extra inning. Maybe it's because they're like 4-seam slider dependent guys. And I don't know, I find myself watching Cease and sometimes having that similar feeling where if the location is not there, things just have a way of kind of, snowballing on him. And we saw that last night. Was a perfect example. A lot of not super hard hit balls either. There's also kind of the batted ball luck that seemed to go against him as well. But either way, the results have not been what you wanted from a guy that, came here, you'd think, with Cy Young potential. And it has not been the case this season. And then you can't help but wonder like how that projects. Maybe it'll make it a little bit easier, at the end of the year, if he decides to move on to say, okay, if he's going to be a 4.5 ERA guy, we're not going to be too upset to see him walk out that door. But right now, given the state of the rotation, they kind of need Dylan Cease to be Dylan Cease.
In all the sports that you've covered over the years, Darnay, have you ever covered a flukier, weirder injury than I slept wrong and now I'm going to miss potentially like 2 months of baseball?
That's a great question. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I know there's been some weird ones.
Yeah.
This one is incredibly bizarre. And every single time Mike Schilt talks about it, it just seems stranger and stranger. Obviously not a pure baseball injury, so they seem to have no idea quite what to do with it. And Schilt said something, he said case by case basis. And for whatever reason, I think this was last week, that made me a little bit concerned because that suggests that there's a kind of a vast array of possible outcomes. And the fact that he's not able to kind of throw consistently. So even if he did get healthy, how much time would it take to kind of build him back up? I have no idea what to expect at this point, but as long as it goes week to week without any clear answer or plan for him going forward, it doesn't feel great.
Does it feel fishy to you? Like, are you buying that he just slept wrong, or do you think there's something more to it?
What are you suggesting, Jim?
I don't know. I'm just saying it's
like, was it something that actually occurred in some baseball setting?
Like, okay, him sleeping wrong obviously is a big factor here, but do you think there might have been something before that and this kind of just triggered everything? Or do you think it's just solely like, all right, I buy it. Like, do you 100% buy it?
It does sound kind of weird, right?
Yeah,
it does. Now, like, we've all slept weird, right?
Yep.
But we don't have, the wear and tear on our arms. We're not like doing that motion full force over and over and over again. But then I would also think if that were the case and it was just like I slept weird and I also have this job that requires me to use my back and my shoulder and my arm a lot, like then this probably would have happened to somebody else where like, they had, a weird night on a mattress at a hotel in some strange town and it just made them not feel good. The whole thing is very, very bizarre. I can't make heads and tails of it. King seems like a stand-up guy, so I would believe him. But, until we have more information, it's really hard to know what to do with it.
Darnay, we always appreciate it. Listen, you're welcome here anytime. You don't have to text us.
we made you a promise. We won't text you for 24 hours.
Is that what we said now?
I think that was.
I'm not keeping that.
Yeah, for a day. Yeah, no, that was, you led with that text.
I did.
I mean, that was your offer.
Yeah.
I'll text you top of the first inning.
And I'll text you bottom of the first inning.
Thanks, Darnay.
It's not going to take that long for Jim to send the follow-up text.
No.
Appreciate it, Darnay, as always.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for doing it. Darnay Tripp, NBC7. Really good follow on social media for San Diego sports fans at Darnay Tripp. Let's react to some of that conversation on the other side. Hopefully we'll hear from Mike Schilt before this game starts as well. We have Jim's back page coming up too. Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. A reminder, tomorrow at 6 right here, it's SDFC Midweek Live. You'll hear from the head coach, Mikey Varis. Other interviews as well. Find out the latest with SDFC during Midweek Live every Wednesday on your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. Great to connect with Darnay Tripp on the Padres. Mike Schilt, I believe, is speaking with the media at this hour. Have you been able to find anything?
No, it's always a little later with a 7:10 start.
I know it is. I know. You're right.
So
you're
usually,
saying if it was like a 4:10 start, he would speak before a 7:10 start?
Even if it was a 6:40 start, he would have spoken by now.
Almost like 30 minutes earlier.
Correct. Usually we get Mike Schilt sound around 5-ish o'clock.
Yeah, 4:35. So you're right. So now we're looking 5:30.
Yeah,
you're right.
So we'll see. I don't know what profound thing Mike Schilt's going to talk about today.
I need the update on. I need the daily King Darvish.
The King Darvish stuff is probably the only thing that I care about.
Merrill, need the update. How's he feeling?
Yeah. Okay. I need those are the 3 updates I need. That's what I need to hear from Schilty.
Do you want to hear from Schilt post game on Andy Pahz?
From last night?
Yeah. Anything? I didn't hear what he said post game last night. We immediately went on the air with the wrap up show. I did not hear Schilt post game.
Well, he praised
his team, right?
Wandy Peralta and David Morgan. He was really complimentary of those two guys.
Okay.
They were fantastic last night, John. And that 6-3 loss, those guys could not have been any better.
They battled.
They definitely battled. They went out there and they put up zeros on the board.
I love when like the press conference is open and no one else or is over and nobody else is asking questions. Like, I do want to take a moment to recognize the work of David Morgan.
Right. Like chill. No, we don't care.
Nobody
asked you, dude.
It's ridiculous. So we'll see if we hear from Schilt. In terms of our conversation with Darnay, I mean, I love what he brought up there in doing the deeper dive on the players the Padres have acquired at the deadline. It has not always helped offensively. I mean, they've had some guys. Luis Arraez, that's not even a deadline addition. You're just adding a really good hitter. So yes,
right.
And he was a really good hitter last year. Outside of Arraez, there's just not much to show for Preller at the deadline in adding position players.
Well,
not.
If you just look at the course, other than Juan Soto, because in year 2 of Juan Soto, he was an all-star,
player,
a 900 OPS guy. He was the best hitter on that team. And for some reason, fans hate him. Anyway,
right.
I can't think of a position player that Preller has traded for that's like really helped this team in the here and now. Can you think of one?
No, I mean
every single one that Darnay named is pretty much the list.
And
right?
I don't really count Arraez. I credit Preller for doing it, but I don't see this a deadline addition. He just added Luis Arraez.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely Arraez, of course. Last year, he was a big part of their offense.
Yeah, they traded for Cronenworth. I don't count that. I'm talking about deadline moves, like in-season moves, not in the off season, not at the start of the season, before the season. I'm talking about like trade deadline moves at the end of July, beginning of August. What player has AJ Preller traded for, position player wise, that has come here and made a huge impact right away?
Huge, to your point, is again,
0?
I would say Arraez, if we want to count him, sure. He made an impact. Outside of that, which is a reason to say don't include Arraez because when they got him early May.
Yeah, deadline move.
Outside of Arraez, no one.
Okay.
There is no, and you can't say Garrett Cooper. Yeah, his OPS went up a little bit, but he was like a platoon player for a bad team and appeared in 30 games. I mean, that's not some huge impact piece.
So nobody is the answer. AJ Preller has acquired at the deadline.
No impact bat over his tenure. Again, Soto, of course, was impactful even in his first year with some postseason moments, but didn't look like Juan Soto last year at the New York Yankees.
Okay, so other than Juan Soto is kind of the outlier here.
And by the way, there was a lot of criticism of Soto the year he was traded here.
Right. And I'm sure a lot of fans would love revisionist history, obviously, in hindsight's 2020. Remember when you were all cheering in 2022 for the deal? Now you want to go back? Okay. But in the moment, there was not a single Padres fan that was like, I don't don't know about
I
this
even
one.
think that. Do you think people now, even with hindsight, are people like, I wish we didn't do it?
Yes,
we
for
still,
sure.
but we live through it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like there's some good with some.
There's a lot of people that
want James Wood. And
yes,
they want Mackenzie Gore.
A lot of people who were cheering and praising
That's
AJ
interesting.
Preller for the Juan Soto deal are some of the same people that now are saying, why did we make that move? That's the dumbest move in franchise history.
I was the biggest proponent ever of the deal, and I still would make the deal.
Yeah.
And some of it worked out, some of it didn't.
Because
but I'd still make the deal.
Nobody knew what James Wood was going to become, even though that was the player in the deal that the Padres did not want to give up. Everybody else they were fine with. James Wood was the one that really was the hardest because of how highly they thought of him.
Here's the Sophie's choice that you can't probably answer.
Okay.
Revisionist history. The deal's made. It's Merrill, not Wood. How do you feel? Right? Isn't that a fascinating question?
I still think I feel fine because Wood would not have helped the 2024 team because he I don't think he would have.
No, he wouldn't have.
No.
I'm assuming Wood is Wood and Merrill is Merrill.
If you I'm totally fine with I like Jackson Merrill a lot, John.
No, but I'm saying, would you be totally fine with it the other way too?
Well,
Merrill gone.
With
you
everything
see his 2024.
It's hard to answer because of what we know now. Like, because of what we know now. If we did back then, if we would have been like, who's Jackson Merrill?
Oh, we would have been like, peace. Yeah.
See ya.
True. I guess I'm saying now.
And also, who knows if Jackson Merrill becomes who he
was last year
with the Washington Nationals, and who knows if James Wood becomes what he is with the Washington Nationals in the Padres uniform. We'll never know that.
Man, is he put together a year?
He will be an all-star this season. That's for sure.
And I'm talking about Wood.
He is the cornerstone of that
and
franchise.
Merrill put together a year last year.
Yeah.
He was a great player.
Yep.
Great player last year.
But the thing with Wood is his
power
upside and power numbers are greater than Jackson Merrill.
Yeah. He could be a 1,000 OPS player.
40 home run guy. He could be. He could be Yordan Alvarez type.
He could be like Devers.
He could be like Soto.
He could be like Ruth.
Be like Bonds.
All right. On the other side, let's see if we can hear from Mike Schilt. Jim's back page is coming up. Padres-Dodgers game 2 is tonight, and that will get underway at 7:10. This is Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app.
This update is brought to you by eBay. Padres Dodgers game 2 of their 4-game series tonight. Up at Dodger Stadium, 7:10 first pitch. Randy Vasquez is on the mound for the Padres. Game 6 of the Stanley Cup final underway right now. 15 minutes left in the first period. Scoreless between the Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. Florida is looking to close out Edmonton and win the Cup for back-to-back seasons. And the NBA Finals, Game 5 last night went to the Thunder. They have a 3-2 series lead. Game 6 is Thursday night. Potentially, the Pacers might miss Tyrese Hallebertton as he strained his calf in last night's game. Swapping out your tires, there's nothing like it with eBay. You find the feel you're looking for, from smooth highway rides to grip for rough terrain. Get all the tires you need at prices you'll love. eBay, things people love. And Florida just scored, by the way. So
what's the score?
It's 1-0. It's this one's over, and
you know, you root for Edmonton for one Stanley Cup, and they let you down like this.
No, I actually switched sides. If you didn't see my tweet, I switched sides.
You're rooting for the Panthers now?
Go Panthers!
What is this, Kings?
I
Warriors?
want to see a dynasty. It's Kings Warriors, you son of a.
You want to see the Florida Panthers win the Stanley Cup? Seriously?
I want to see greatness, John, and if they win, that's back-to-back cups. All right. They are on verge of being a dynasty. Look at that. You didn't see this tweet I did? You didn't see that?
No. I think I have you muted, maybe.
Probably.
Oh, that's awesome. Mood. Some guy took his Oilers jersey off, and underneath is his Panthers jersey.
Yeah, I'm all in on the Panthers. Look at my Panthers go.
Hold on real quick, because you're like, hey, this could be a dynasty, right? Back to back, which is good.
They've been to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals.
Okay.
And they're about to win their second consecutive one.
Where were you when Tampa Bay went back-to-back 2020, 2021?
Are they in the Stanley Cup final, John?
No.
Okay. So they're not on the verge of being a dynasty, right?
Where were you for Penguins back-to-back 16, 17?
What's the year? What year is it?
Where were you for Islanders 4 straight?
Did I discredit any of those teams, or did I just say the Panthers are on the verge of becoming a dynasty?
I just feel bad for Canada.
Everybody feels bad for Canada in hockey because they never
care
win
so much. They don't win.
They care more than anything on this planet about any sport,
and they can't win this cup.
Like hockey fandom and the care factor in Canada compared to NFL fandom in America.
Right.
It's probably neck and neck, but still, I would say there's the hockey fandom, man, and they don't have anything to show for it. No cups, nothing.
Do we know where to start, Brent? Let's switch gears. We do have Mike Schilt pregame audio. It's only a couple of minutes. Only gonna be a couple of minutes. Do we have the question in here, Brent, or where does he start?
On how Vasquez always does against the Dodgers.
Okay, so Randy Vasquez on pitching tonight against LA at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, I think he did throw the ball very well. Kept him off balance. That was the biggest key. In and out, add, subtract. Disruption of timing and balance it was pitching. He did a nice job.
Following up with that, does he go back to the same program until they prove something different? Do you proactively make the adjustment? And it's always that chess game, that cat and mouse game. What do you think? And without giving anything away, how does that work?
Yeah, I think him and Maul do have a plan, and they'll react to what the hitters are showing them. And biggest thing is really, having the plan, but execution of the plan. So, his ability to throw where he wants to and repeat is going to be the key to this one.
Yeah. Any update on you? What his next game plan is?
Yeah, Darvish is going to throw back in San Diego on Friday. Another simulated game. It looks like Friday could push to Saturday, so I don't want to create any false expectations. But he is trending towards at least an inning or an inning plus on Friday.
Okay. Jackson continuing to improve.
Jackson is improving. I've messaged with him, considerable amount. So he's cleared a few hurdles in a sense of not as consistent a headache. Appetite good, nausea kind of gone away, starting to kind of get his literal footing again and starting to feel, reasonably normal again. So, he's making strides, but still lingering effects.
Mike David Morgan continues to be impressive. 2 scoreless innings last night. What's been your general takeaway from what he's done so far?
Threw the ball well. I mean, the starting point is he's not backing down. He's coming in and he's getting after it. He's throwing a really good fastball with good velocity, but also used him mixing a two-seamer occasionally. The breaking ball's been really good. So he's gone out twice now and grabbed, an inning and 2/3 over in San Francisco to keep a game really tight. That was a one-run game, and then last night kept a game that was, a couple guys get on and the swing of the bat they can tie it, and he's getting through 2 innings last night that were very effective.
All right.
People.
That was it.
Wow, just short and sweet. Just short and sweet. Vasquez tonight wouldn't disclose the secrets at Dodger Stadium.
That was it?
No. Now, the thing on Darvish, he said he's either going to throw Friday or Saturday. Simulated. 1 or 1+ innings.
That's it?
That's it. Yes, exactly. We're getting like an Otani. You're just going to get 1 inning. That's simulated, not a major league game. So, just a holding pattern. Nothing on Merrill, right? They've been texting.
Of course they have.
Imagine that.
I guarantee you, before
bud.
Mike lays his head down on his pillow, he has his phone ready to text Jackson Merrill, like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?
What are you guys doing tonight? Did you order in?
Hey, did you see that play in the 3rd inning?
What? We could have used you tonight.
Do you think we should have double stealed here?"
It must be weird to see like the texts back and forth between manager and player, Mike Schilt and his players.
Yep, you got
that's weird.
Jackson Merrill probably with his girlfriend, just like hanging out.
Like, can we spend 2 hours together without Mike Schilt texting?
And Jackson Merrill's over there like on the couch giggling like a little schoolgirl, texting back and forth with Mike Schilt.
How mad is Jackson Merrill? He's not with the team.
So mad. He's
right?
probably
watching games on TV.
He's probably like very hard to be around. Because you remember what he said.
He's like, it was awful.
It was
miserable.
Freaking awful. I was miserable. I hated it.
I'm sure that makes his girlfriend feel
She's like,
great.
yay.
Yeah.
So you want to go out to dinner tonight? He's like, no, I'm going to be so upset.
I mean, you're missing a 4-game series at Dodger Stadium. Like,
that's big.
A big series to miss.
Yeah. And if you're as big of a competitor as Jackson Merrill is, and how much you just love the game, and that's why we all love him, to miss this series at Dodger Stadium, first time that they've been back there since. I mean, you remember the photo of him just sitting in the dugout after they lost in the NLDS?
Yeah, I do.
He was the last one out, just sitting there, pissed off, sad, and he doesn't get a chance to go back there. Oh yeah, it sucks for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mentioned something earlier, maybe in the week, where I'm like, could we look at this as like a lost season for Merrill? And I don't think it's fair.
No, not yet.
Because, not yet. It's like he's been productive. He just hasn't played.
Right.
But he's when he has played, he's been productive. I thought he was way more productive before that hamstring than he has been. But he's been a good player. I mean, he hasn't been great. I think he's been good. Just, man, can we see him on the field for the last 80 games of the year? Can he stay healthy? Can he look like 2024? We spent so much time on Tatis and the bottom of this lineup. And I mean, the thing is, we haven't spent a ton of time on Merrill because he missed 25 games. Now he's back on the IL. I just want to see Jackson Merrill from what we saw a year ago. And he was a dynamic player, one of the best players, one of the most clutch players in the game as a rookie. I don't think we're asking for too much. That's what I want to see in the second half of the year.
I just want to see a healthy, happy Jackson Merrill, because a healthy, happy Jackson Merrill makes everybody else happy. When he's out there and he's hitting game time doubles and screaming at second base, which you hate.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
No, I want to see him in the clubhouse at like 9 a.m. First guy in, last guy out. I just want to see him get back healthy.
He's like, hey, Manny, why are you taking that 3-2 pitch on the outside corner on the black? What's going on, buddy?
I just want to see him back healthy.
You need to fight more. Hey, Xander, do you think Jackson Merrill's what do you think Jackson Merrill's like in the clubhouse? Probably just like all business.
That's a good question.
Like,
that's a really
business.
good question.
Because the players, they act differently. Some of them do. Some of them don't.
Right.
But when the media's in there, different vibe.
I think he is.
When the media is not in there.
No, I think he's the same, because remember the day he signed his extension? Like, he sounds, I don't know. It's just kind of who he is.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I think he's like truly like Schilt's favorite, because I think that's what Schilt wants out of a player. Like someone that's that fully vested and bought in.
Like if you did a list of Schilt's favorite players.
Obviously Wade.
Number one is it's got to be Jackson Merrill. Number one is Jackson Merrill. Number two, I'm going to go with Manny Machado.
Yeah.
Because without Manny, Schilt doesn't have a job.
Right.
I'll go 3, Tyler Wade.
He's got to crack the top 3.
Yeah.
I think he likes some Toddy.
Number 4. Man, who does he love? Who does he love? I'm not gonna go Todd.
Jake.
No. It's a good question. I don't know. Top 3 is a fairly easy one. It's in any order. It's Merrill, Machado, Tyler Wade.
I do think he likes some Michael King.
Yeah, I think so. Michael King might be up there in top 5.
David Morgan might crack the top 10 right now.
Wandy Peralta might crack the top 5. He loves to talk about Wandy. His ground ball rate. Loves his ground ball rate.
He likes them all. He's going to like him even more if they win tonight.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you know who he loves? He loves some Jeremiah Estrada.
Yeah. Is there anyone he doesn't like?
No. He loves everybody.
Yeah, he likes Trenton Brooks.
Oh. Hey, Schilt, give me a positive thing to say about Trenton Brooks. He would spend
it's funny you asked me.
At least 3 minutes
Granite
minimum.
Hills. Granite Hills guy.
Love his his defense. He puts together some good at bats.
You should see him on the mound in high school. I was watching film.
Runs the bases well.
Does everything.
Energy guy. He would definitely find ways to make Trenton Brooks sound like an all-star.
Schilte's the type of guy, though, even if nobody asked any questions about Brooks, they'd be like, okay, any more questions? All right, thanks, guys. Hey, hold on.
Yeah.
I just want to take 5 minutes and just talk about how great of a dude Brooks is.
You see that at bat last night? It worked the walk. We got to talk about that. Worked the walk in an 8-2 game.
All right. We're here until 6. You just heard from Mike Schilt. Padres and Dodgers about an hour out from Dodger Stadium. Game 2 of this 4-game series. On the other side, we will get to Jim's back page. Here until 6, Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. By the way, there's a text on here, 70470. Started with the word team. We'll get to Jim's back page in a minute. 503, when we were talking about Wood and Merrill. 503, wrong, Jim. Wood was projected to be better than Merrill. In real time, he's saying Wood was the higher prospect than Jackson Merrill when the trade was made.
Yeah, that's why we said if it was Jackson Merrill at the time, we'd be like, who cares? Bye.
Yeah, like, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Exactly. So I don't understand. I understand. Because we literally said,
yeah, I think we said that. I agree.
We literally said if Jackson Merrill was in the trade, the reaction from us would be like, bye, who cares? Rando.
He also said every midseason blockbuster trade has failed. Clevenger, Nola, was that a blockbuster trade?
Austin Nola. Yeah, it was. Well, it was a 2020 trade when they traded Andres Munoz.
Yeah, and then he said Soto.
Brash.
And they said Soto. Padres gave up future all-stars in each failed trade. Yeah, it's called trading, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like you're going to trade to get pieces.
It happens. It's just that AJ does not have a good track record with this stuff as far as position players go, right? His track record is actually really bad.
Yeah. Now, some of these pitchers, like the Dylan Cease last year, or Yu Darvish, the first couple of years he was here, Blake Snell, Cy Young season, Joe Musgrove, first couple of years here, like there's been some good acquisitions there. But yeah, the position player thing has never worked out. It's like we've talked about developing a player, like other than Jackson Merrill, it's not like they're developing position players left and right.
Yeah, they've done some really good things elsewhere to kind of maybe make up for the fact that Preller, for the most part, other than Juan Soto, all of the trades have really failed, right? For position players, at least at the deadline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not putting Arise in that category because that was closer to the start of the season. Juan Soto is the only player that like actually turned into something here of substance before they had to trade him to get Michael King and Higgy, which ended up, helping a lot last season. But now you're on the verge of losing King for nothing. And oh, by the way, he's now hurt.
Yeah, it's hard. Like it's so easy to be, and I'm there. I mean, it's easy to criticize the GM when things don't work out. I do understand it, but it's also, for me, I'd much prefer taking the shot, like the Juan Soto trade, the Mike Clevenger trade. The go for it mentality to me is way more how I'm wired. Well, I prefer as opposed to the measured approach.
Well, then, are you okay with trading Salas and DeVries?
Well, yeah, I'm on the record saying that. I mean, first of all, no player to me is untouchable if you can get the right return for your team, right? So I would say that they're not trading Leo DeVries.
No.
So it's not something to even
nor should they
contemplate. And I think he's got a chance to probably be a very good major leaguer. We'll see. That's at least in front of him. Ethan Salas, I'm on the record saying, again, he's so young. He could be a great player, but would I contemplate moving him if I can improve my team? Yeah. To me, I don't think Ethan Salas for me is untouchable. I understand not trading him. I fully understand it. But if you can really get something that's going to help you and is controllable and put you over the top, I'd consider it.
Man, I'm so fascinated by what Preller will or won't do to help improve this team. Because listening to AC yesterday, the prospects of him making a splashy type of move, pretty low. And if he makes a around the margins move, how much is that truly going to help if the other guys in the lineup aren't going to perform and produce?
Right.
So this is a big trade deadline for AJ Preller because the iteration of this team, it's going to be completely different next year. Completely different. King, Cease, Arise, those guys, most likely all three of them will not be here. Then you look at the rest of the pitching staff with Darvish and Musgrove coming back next year. You have Nick Pivetta under contract, which is good. Who knows? I think Robert Suarez has an opt-out. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
But still, you have you're going to have holes in left field. You're going to have another hole at second base. I mean, you already have a hole at first base. Not second base. First base I meant because that's where Luis Ariz plays.
We already have a hole at short.
You have a hole. Yeah, short because Xander Stucks. You have a hole at catcher because you don't have any catchers under contract next year, and
it's not gonna be Ethan Salas.
You have no faith in Luis Campisano. And if Martin Maldonado and Elias Diaz return to this team, I will lose my freaking mind because those players are awful.
Is one of them a multi-year deal? It is, right?
Diaz? If you had a gun to my head and I had to choose, I would choose Diaz over Maldonado, but still, it's a really bad option, both of those guys.
All right, Dodgers Padres coming up tonight at 7:10. Right now, let's get to this.
So one of my stories recently was that Joey Chestnut could be returning to the Nathan's 4th of July eating contest on Coney Island.
Yeah.
You know, he left because he got a big sponsorship deal from, I think, vegan hot dogs. And
last year,
everyone's freaking out and he wasn't in it and the ratings just plummeted. Well,
but he's back, right?
Good news, he is back.
Wow.
Joey Chestnut will be returning to Nathan's famous 4th of July hot dog eating contest, which means all is right in the world.
So is he now the immediate clear-cut favorite?
Oh, 100%.
100%. Okay.
100%. People are going to be tuning in now to watch Joey Chestnut.
Yeah. What's the over-under?
Good question, John. I don't have the over-under.
What would my over-under be? As a vegetarian that has not had a hot dog in 15 years?
A half.
1.5 maybe?
No, a half.
I think I could do one now.
A half. I don't know what the over-under is, but it's got to be in the 70s because
70s?
In 2021, he set the record for 76 hot dogs eaten in 10 minutes.
Yeah, but is he still in his prime?
Dude.
Probably.
Now, I take that back. Joey Chestnut broke his own record eating 83 hot dogs in 10 minutes in eating contest held in Las Vegas last year.
How
So
do you even do that?
his record at the 4th of July eating contest is 76, but his overall record is 83.
Incredible.
I didn't see an over under. You guys don't know what this means because I always hate the minuses. He's minus 2,500.
So he's a huge favorite.
So he's you'd have to put down $2,500.
The next closest guy is plus 950.
Wow.
It's basically over.
Yeah, it's over.
It's over. The Scoop Ice Cream Festival returns to San Diego this weekend, John.
Okay.
Southern California's only ice cream festival is returning to North Park this weekend. I've had this on the back page, but it is now upon us. The Scoop Ice Cream Festival will bring together more than 30 ice cream and gelato vendors from all over San Diego, each offering a sample of their unique flavors. Their sweet treats are served with a purpose. The event is organized by a 501 nonprofit organization, Scoop San Diego, which raises money for other organizations that help underserved communities.
So do you buy your way in and get a sample of all 30?
Pretty much.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of ice cream places. I'm not going to name all of them, but it's this weekend. And new this year is a live competition to determine the winner of Scoop San Diego's best flavor. The celebrity chef judging panel will be comprised of Claudia Sandoval, who she won MasterChef. She's San Diegan. She's been in this building multiple times. Sam the Cooking Guy. We all know Sam the Cooking Guy here. An Emmy-winning food personality, Zuzu Kawaja.
Okay.
Winner of Top Chef Amateurs in 2020. So yeah, speaking of food celebrities, this is just like a extra thing on the back page. Do you know? You probably don't know who this is. Anne Burrell. Do you know who Anne Burrell is?
I have no idea who that is.
She is a famous. You know who Anne Burrell is?
You would know her if you saw her picture.
Okay.
I didn't know the name, but when I saw the picture, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of know.
Yeah, she has like
short blonde hair.
Short blonde hair, but she like spiked it.
Oh, why didn't you say?
She's a personality.
Yeah.
Well, sad news. She passed away today at the age of 55. Unknown cause of death.
Really?
Yeah.
That's sad.
That's awful.
That's crazy.
She was a huge personality on the Food Network. Huge.
And just suddenly passed away.
She was found unconscious in her house and pronounced dead.
Wow.
No cause of death as of right now. But I watch the Food Network kind of like religiously. So I've watched Anne Burrell a ton. And when I saw this news, I was like, wait,
yeah,
what?
That's sad. That's really sad.
Very sad. So RIP to Anne Burrell.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 55. That's all I got today. I don't want to.
You just want to end on a somber note.
Well, do you want
typically with the news? Just so you know, I just want to, when we watch like a newscast, they start with sad, right? Like what they say, like blood lead, like
I wasn't going to
murders
Not
lead.
necessarily.
Yeah, but they look
Sometimes
like a puppy was adopted today in North Park, and look, he's so cute.
Fine, you want me to end on this?
yeah, but sometimes they'll be like, and he was 57, and then they'll fade out and they'll go to commercial break, and then they'll end with that because they're not going to go.
That's
and
what
he
I'm
was
saying.
57. It's ice cream
And
fest
puppy
time
died.
in North Park.
Yeah,
Right.
You rarely see newscast, like sportscast or newscast, where they go, he was 57. And by the way,
No, you're right. They take the break, come back with the puppy story.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like that old Jay Moore,
No, you're
Chris
right.
Berman bit.
No, you're right.
So I'm not going to talk about
so that's it.
Chipotle and anything.
No Chipotle talk.
No.
All right. That'll be for tomorrow. We will
Correct.
give a
Yeah.
full 24
Rest in
hours.
peace, Ann Burrell.
We will have a wrap-up show tonight. Padres-Dodgers game 2 coming up in an hour from Dodger Stadium. Can the Padres bounce back and even this series? Stay tuned is what I would say because I don't know the answer, but we'll find out tonight. If you missed anything today, check out sportsSD.com or the iHeartRadio app or iTunes or TuneIn Radio or Spotify. If you're listening to us on podcast, please leave a review as well. Back tomorrow too. Kevin Acey will join us from LA, from Dodger Stadium, getting us ready for another Padres-Dodgers game. And for Brent and Jim, I'm John. Keep it here at San Diego Sports 760.
Okay.
Bye-bye.